Hey everyone, this is Louis7, and I am streaming The Lord of the Rings Online, or at least trying to do my intro for this stream, but we have a direhorn here who apparently has a problem with that, so I will attempt to actually find my place on the keyboard and dispatch this issue. So today, as the title of the stream implies, we're going to be talking about Guardians and Dwardens. I know that's perhaps kind of random. The motivation for the Guardian might be a little bit more obvious with the recent posts from Orion, one of the LOTRO developers, on the LOTRO forums about some of the changes that they are thinking about implementing with, the Guardian class. So I don't know if it's long awaited as much as the Captain and Warden. I'd honestly say Lore Master is even more long awaited, and for me personally, of course, Warning. I've been hoping for a revamp since their last revamp, basically a revamp to the revamp. But this character's inventory is really terribly messy. That's not great. But yeah, what was I going on about? Got myself all distracted. Basically, that is the motivation, yes, for me to play Guardian a little bit. I was just, talking about the Guardian, thinking about the Guardian. I'm like, wow, I want to play Guardian. And I thought it was good timing for actually a few reasons. One, just to have something fun to do in LOTRO, which might sound odd considering there's the new instance cluster, but I'm already getting pretty tired of that. There's the 2 3-mans are okay. Poison Gardens is my favorite one, but there's only so many times I can run a single 3-man. And the 6-man is honestly pretty boring to me, which is not ideal, but that is unfortunately how I feel about it. Also, I need to refresh my stream because everything is all messed up from my end. Hopefully it is working from your all's end. That would be a good thing. Also, because I'm terrible at this, remind myself to post that on Discord, or actually post it on Discord, not just remind myself. Did want to say hello to Miss Bella Games. But the other feature of today's stream that is brand new is I have made some hopefully upgrades to the cat cam. So you might notice this little black thing here. Well, that is a second cat bed. It is just the black version of this one. And I have crowded my desk even more with cats. What could go? No. Oh, we're actually missing that. Where's the cat cam? There, there it is. I can't even see it. Hopefully it's showing that. The cat's doing their catly greetings. And tail right there. Here is Piper, the one that's in the way. And now Lexi is watching the monitors, seeing all the cats moving on the monitors. But anyway, yes, that is something that I have worked on, getting that bucket changed to being empty from being full and actually used for stuff into a second cat bed. And right now it just has a towel on it because they don't like, besides the circle bed, they like the circle bed that's in this one. Besides the circle bed, they actually don't like beds. But towels and blankets are usually fine. My cats really like laying on towels, probably because they have my scent. Okay, so also, there's another recent development. Actually, it's not the most recent development. It's just something I totally forgot about because I was planning this stream for Monday. Monday was yesterday, so obviously it is Tuesday and no longer Monday. But my kin usually doesn't do group activities on Tuesday. So I didn't really think it would be much of a, problem where I would be missing out on group activities to do this. Well, it turns out because of the 16th anniversary events, they actually are planning on doing group activities, but I think that I can do them on my Guardian and maybe Lore Master. And Lore Master is an interesting one that is neither the Guardian nor Dwarden. I haven't even talked about Dwarden yet. Lore Master is an interesting one because we have another developer post, very, very preliminary one, on the upcoming Lore Master work that is not really about any particular changes going on, I don't think, unless there have been, that actually looks a bit more involved than when I originally saw it. I don't know if they updated it to just include more information. So there's actually new stuff there, I think, from what I originally saw is like super short from what I remember correctly. So yeah, there's basically a whole lot of chaotic things going on, and on top of all that, apparently my kin is planning some, what I think should be fun group activities. It's just not what I initially had planned. Also, don't mind this very random gameplay. I just wanted things to do while talking. There is, I don't think, any objective for this character to defeat these mobs, but here I am. I really do have to say, Redline Guardian is satisfying, even if I think it there could of course be some improvements to it. What we are seeing is not representative of all the forms of Redline Guardian gameplay. Hopefully that is something that is fairly obvious, because I am just solo and actually relatively poorly geared, but still just totally plowing through landscape content. I'm not even sure Whirling Retaliation is worth using with 3 mobs. In fact, it hits 5 mobs at most. It might require just about all 5 mobs to really be worth using because it has such a long animation. But then again, if your primary focus is AoE, because all that really unlocks is more single target damage primarily. It's not quite that straightforward because you have things like To the King. But before I get way too detailed into the Redline Guardian gameplay, I guess I should wait. Okay, so I mentioned to the kin chat that I would love to go on my lore master. Okay, yeah. We'll leave that there. Eventually we'll get into the group content, but I'm basically trying to stay focused on this character before they actually, so I'm not just sitting there standing around doing nothing for like 10, 15, 20 minutes or however long. However long it is. Okay. They should be fine with my Guardian going tossed unhealth. I mean, we'd run it at level 65, I imagine, for whatever they are wanting to get to. But we have as many new features as I have talked about during this stream. I have finally gotten to some experimental Windows features that actually are available for Windows 10, if you can imagine. And with one of them, you can pin a program to be always on top. This was my first time really investigating it, so this is not like groundbreaking news, but it is something that is new to my streams, basically. So if I go to desktop here, yes, I actually did have it somewhat set up. Of course, the cat cam needs to be just as big as my camera. I know that's not usually the case, but we'll ignore that. And on the top left here, we have the tiny LOTRO forums. I really hope that the LOTRO forums revamp... Oh, this is actually a little bit messed up. There we go. I really hope that the LOTRO forums revamp... Oh, cat. The LOTRO forums revamp brings a better viewing experience with that, so that's something else we can check out. And now I cannot actually see this. I think we need mechanics-wise six people for whatever it is we're trying to run. So I don't believe we're actually filled yet. And just so I can actually get things going, hopefully get this stream organized. I have been just rambling on for 15 minutes about nothing. Hopefully I can get this at least somewhat organized and going before I have to join the kin on Discord and all that sort of stuff. But I think the very first thing I need to do is actually situate this character. That would be really helpful instead of just wandering around here. And I think the best way to do that is leave Mordor, even though this character is questing in Mordor and it's oddly super exciting. It is the weirdest experience ever on this character, but I have been thoroughly enjoying Mordor solo. I have enjoyed Mordor not solo before. I've at times enjoyed and not enjoyed Mordor solo. I forget where that sentence started. But essentially, I've more frequently enjoyed Mordor when I'm in a group. I'll put it that way. It was actually really fun, but significantly different than the solo experience where it was a lot more fun than running through it solo. But there are some parts of it that can be enjoyable solo. Just to repeat myself and hopefully make it at least somewhat clear what I was trying to say. And hello, Yamashi. And Tumaj. Sorry, not doing a great job with chat, but Bella, you said that you saw the changes they made to character customizations for Race and Man last night and you're happy with them. Good to hear you are happy with them. That seems to unfortunately be a relatively minority opinion. I have seen people more recently start talking about that they actually do like the changes, which is good that people like it. I think one of the biggest issues, I almost made a video on this. I guess I technically still could, but I think with all the issues that people are bringing up, I think one of the biggest causes of these issues was how hurriedly this was pushed out clearly before it was ready. This was essentially rushed out for the 16th anniversary update. And I think that was a pretty big contributing factor. At least to me, that's the sense that I get, that it's a pretty big contributing factor to the just general dislike for the update. I didn't realize we were already ready. Okay, I'm going to join the Kin on Discord because apparently we're actually getting things run. Let's see. And as usual, I will be on push to talk. Hello. Sorry, I didn't realize we were quite ready to start this. Okay, well, I'll be in a Discord chat with them, but it's on push to talk. You all won't hear them, and for better or worse, I'm gonna halfway ignore them until we actually get started. I feel bad about it, but I am trying to stream here. It sounds like at the very least we will be able to run this, but we need 6, I think, for mechanics with the, if I remember correctly, it's the Muma kill. So Darth Malgus, you were wondering for the Warden update if the heals got nerfed. And let's see, on my level 140 Warden, let's start with the level 40 Warden on Dwardens, who is supposed to be a topic of the stream. The Dwardens heals were definitely worse than they used to be, so they were nerfed. My level 140, I haven't quite been able to tell as much, just clearly. The Dwarves of Mordor. I heard Dwarves of Mordor? It actually makes sense, but sounds like somebody in the group is actually experiencing animation bugs right now. But yeah, that's good that you're able to make your character look better. I think with all the customization options and sliders, there's a great opportunity to make characters look better. But there's also great opportunity, unfortunately, to make them look worse. I think a lot of my characters that I have checked, I did finally check my ones on Arkenstone who actually are Race of Man, just left over from the old days before they added more class options to different races, and that's pretty much it. And like added the high elf, etc. But yeah, they all look a little bit worse by default, but they are hopefully fixable. Okay, so as far as general things to do on this character while we're waiting for the group to actually get forward, unfortunately we can still play Guardian with the group content. It looks like not Mordor Besieged, but it looks like we have Watcher quests, so defeat Felverins, collect rune fragments, and for all I know, there could be other stuff. Looks like I have some mission things being tracked here. We should clean that up. I feel like there's, I feel like I'm remembering a quicker way to do this, but not right now. Barad-dûr. Is this an allegiance thing? I'm trying to remember. Because it's odd. Well, it's level 108, so it's not that on level, or that much like lower level than the other quests. So I don't think that's much of a problem. Oh, that quest is actually right here. Never mind. We're all good. We're all on track. The stout, yeah, the stout axes. I think this is something because I did not do in my latest playthrough, Dora Marth. My latest playthrough being maybe a couple of years ago, I didn't do Dora Marth. I kind of forgot exactly where stat axes came in to the regular Mordor gameplay, essentially. I think I'm remembering some from the Black Book, though, like coming across them at more than one point, but it was, I guess, less notable for me than side quests, essentially. But looks like that is done. That line is not done, but we have the turn in at Gimli. Yes, I have seen that bug where you stay laying on the ground after you fall off your horse. I think that is just a Race of Man thing, and maybe a Beorning thing, but I have not experienced that. The main bugs that I've experienced would be, I actually logged into my Arkenstone Warden specifically to get level 120-ish gameplay, and just something different, because it actually was helpful. And just, again, something a little bit different. But the main bugs I experienced were animation bugs, especially animations were taking a whole lot longer or just not actually animating on that character. And it actually hurt the gameplay because of how slow the character was compared to even the Dwarf Warden or the High Elf Warden that I have. And I assume Human Warden before the update. But yeah, nice ride through Mordor. I don't know if anybody noticed, but in the Guardian video that I made, when was that even? It wasn't even that long ago, so a few days ago, I had my lights turned red just because it seems so fitting talking a lot about Red Guardian and being the red Mordor. But today I feel the need for contrast, so now it's like bright blue. It's like post-war Gondor. Jigsaw must be talking about somebody else in chat. Okay, we're finally almost... Oh no, did I turn too soon? We can make this jump, no worries. Easy peasy. That is actually usually very worrying in LOTRO, but if there's no lag and things actually work as intended, then sometimes you can actually make jumps. But yeah, when we get into this, okay, it looks like we actually have 6 people. So that probably means I should get going into the instance. Let me deal with these guys. Now that they're all here, we'll do that. Hold up. I actually know how to play Guardian. 1 second. Maybe I know how to play Guardian. I am here dying when I have a I guess that debuff is too strong for my debuff remover. Ignore the pain, which is actually going to be one of the topics of today, hopefully. I had a whole lot of things that I plan to talk about with Guardian. It's just gonna take a moment to get through. Okay, let's actually join the instance. I really liked Ostunhoth. I don't think I've done too many streams with it, so it's not going to be very representative of like on-level Ostunhoth gameplay, but we'll get to the instance. This is actually almost a little bit of a preview of the type of stream that I'm planning on Friday. That's going to be really tough to fit in 2 streams this week, but I'm going to try. Why am I thinking I need to turn right? I need to turn left. We're not quite to the right wing. Oh wow, we're both low-level Guardians. That's actually crazy. I did not know there'd be anybody else low level here. That is Weirwillow, the original. Okay, I think I'm going right side, it sounded like. But yeah, you have to, basically the reason you need 6 people, I think, if I remember correctly, it's only this fight, this little gauntlet. You have to have 1 person stand on each of these platforms, is 2 per hallway. So you have left, middle, and right. I think I'm on the right here. And yeah, you have to activate all these. So yeah, it requires that. And then you have to basically outrun the Mumax. Actually, they're not Mumakil here. I believe they're called Oiliphants because of the location we're in. Not that they're different creatures, but just how they're referred to by the peoples here. Maybe. Oh, wow. That guy just saw my hammer and died. That's what the Guardian revamp really should do. Hey, these guys have just about as much health as the mobs in Mordor. That's actually kind of funny. Okay, looks like technically I should probably be the one on lever duty and let the hunter just one-shot everything, but it really doesn't matter. Kickery, congrats on your Guardian hitting 140. Hopefully you enjoy the Guardian and maybe enjoy it more after the revamp whenever that comes. I wouldn't be surprised if it's intended for update 36, so like a couple months. That would be my anticipation, at least. They haven't really made any announcements, or I haven't at least seen any hints for potential dates even. I really like this character's outfit. This is one of the very few times I will actually wear a helmet. Unfortunately, it breaks my character's hair a little bit, but if you ignore that, it has the face guard up. And I don't know, it's just something I like and don't usually use something like that on a character. Okay, can't get in the way of that. It will one-shot. I believe it one-shots and it's not an actual amount of damage it does if you get in its path. But there we go. We can one-shot it. Wait, Leah, you went to Moria and it had no floor. That sounds like a dangerous bug. And we're probably going to progress this fight like super rapidly. I don't think there's any concern with me being relatively low level. I just probably won't be able to contribute the most we should have. I suspect people mostly just one-shotting things. Here, I can actually try to hit the Oiliphants so that I actually do some contribution potentially, maybe. And there we go. I think no, I did not get all 4 bleeds up. Hold up. This guy ever phases out of this? Yeah, I'm not going to get all 4 bleeds up. It's going to be hard to pay attention to any Guardian mechanics, but I thought it would be a great opportunity to perhaps see some things with the with the longer duration fights with the Guardian, which I actually have had in Redline, albeit not that many, and not that many very recently, and not that many at very high level. But that's something that I have at some point in LOTRO have done since the maybe other Guardian revamp that they did a few years ago, I think would be the best way to call that. I find it kind of funny though how much bigger they just make mobs nowadays. Compare these guys to the ones in but yeah, compared to the ones in Gondor.
Welcome to Ostdunhof, followers of the Grey Wizard.
Now this Barrow White guy, I don't know why I couldn't think of a better name for him. Gauntlord, evil person. He actually looks pretty sizable. Have I ever played? I have not played on Gladden. They have a weird obsession with bacon. Yeah, a lot of people are passionate about bacon. I'm not the biggest fan of bacon. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think this is bugged because I clearly have hammer down. Sometimes it's just a visual bug because on the war state, I think it happens fairly frequently where you won't actually see the last traits. And I am rooted. Yeah, if I do eat bacon, I tend to prefer it to be crispy, but not hard and crunchy, if that makes sense. I also prefer fatty pieces of bacon compared to the less fatty, which is a bit odd. Because for most meat, that's not really the case for me. I don't think we'll get any bacon here, though. At least if these guys make bacon, I don't think I want any of it. Did I get 176k crit on this character? That is probably the highest crit that I have gotten. I realize these are low-level mobs with probably pretty poor defenses against the level 107. But yeah, I don't remember getting anything even close to that on this character. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, it's interesting to think about the Guardian revamp because one of the bigger things that I started to think about but didn't end up talking about too much in the video is at first I was saying that it was a good idea. Let me actually see. There we go. YouTube added a new feature where I can actually add a marker on the dashboard and then I can go back to look at those and I don't have to actually note down the time I actually talk about a topic for potential future reference. But yeah, to get started with the Yellow Line Guardian, that is a spec that I always thought, considering what they have done with the Brawler, Minstrel, and now Warden, it seemed like a spec that would fit very greatly to be removed. I'm always sad to lose a spec from the game because you essentially lose an option, but with the way Standing Stone Games does balance in general design right now, it just doesn't seem feasible for a lot of classes to have two specs serve similar or the same purposes. So at first I thought that was pretty much expected and in line with what they would do, and I thought it was a good thing. But I have to admit, with some of the changes that they talked about, or some of the ideas that they talked about for the Yellow Line Guardian, I have to admit, a spec that is very focused on and expands on some of the ideas that they had, I think could be very fun as its own spec. It, to me, sounded a lot like a Paladin from World of Warcraft. I know the closest class to a Paladin in WoW and LOTRO right now is probably the Captain. like just for, it's not the most comparable, but you know, you have light kind of similar to WoW's Holy, and it has flexibility in roles, and that's pretty much it. You know, can heal, tank, DPS, and the such, and Paladin does have a little bit of support type stuff in WoW, if you can call it support. Paladin does have that, but in LOTRO there's not really anything that's quite exactly like, has certain themes, I guess, is what I'm trying to say from the Paladin, except for what they started talking about with the yellow line and some of the traits that we might see in the yellow line. And I think if they really went heavy on that and did it in a way, this is very important, but did it in a way where there's no reason that choosing yellow line guardian would be bad versus blue line, and no reason that choosing blue line guardian would be bad versus yellow. You could have those two specs and just have two tank specs for the guardian. And that's exactly where I think the issue is, that they have pretty much shown that if you have two specs that serve the same role for a class, that typically one of them is not going to be viable or comparable to the other. I'd say champion is perhaps an exception because you have the AoE with yellow line and the single target with red line. So that is, oops, wait, switching to Thorog, I think. Let me actually listen to what we're doing. I have ignored the Ken's Discord chatter this entire run pretty much. It's been background noise. I feel so bad. We're doing tier 2 of something. That's all I know. Oh boy, I hit, there we go. For better or worse, I have accidentally, not really accidentally, it's something I could disable and I purposefully set it up, but it has led to accidents. I have macros bound to a set of keys on the far left side of my keyboard, and sometimes I hit those. And most of them have to do with like just holding W to walk, for example, or clicking. There we go, travel.
From behind the walls of Ost-Dunoth, a terrible foe sends his malice out into Middle-earth.
So yeah, that sometimes messes me up. Okay, so we're doing tier 2 with a right wing now. I think there's a left, right, and center. I forget what they have proper names. There's like wound and fear, poison and disease. I don't know. And then there's like purple, shadow. Maybe there's fire and lightning and Orthink thing. But yeah, these actually do have more proper names than left, right, and center. But anyway, yeah, with the Yellow Line Guardian, I just think that could have been very interesting to have a spec that expanded a little bit on some of the ideas that they have. And if y'all are wondering a little bit more about these specific ideas, I will pull that up in a second because that would probably help me actually talk about this. And with any luck, I might actually have a decent bit of Guardian videos coming up. Okay, gotta itch my nose. Let's see. So I need to... I won't be able to see chat for a moment, but I basically need to go to the More Guardians Thoughts post. Okay, let's see. I have to go earlier. Unfortunately, it can be a little bit hard to navigate, but it is, let's see, April 22nd. Okay. I think we need to go even earlier. Maybe. I forget exactly where this was, but yeah, that was the issues with the LOTRO forums. Not necessarily the easiest to navigate and find something like this, but we're getting caught up here. And I'm going to focus for now on the yellow line as we try to attempt... Oh, I gotta pay attention. I heard my name. Yeah, this boss you actually have to do mechanics. So we're gonna be on left tree. And I think the important thing is that we don't hit our little bog guardians. And if we do kill bog guardians, it has to be from the other boss, or have to kill the ads.
No longer. Now they produce death to see
I heard left.
red cloud.
Seems kind of concerning. We have 4 people here, but we do have... Well, where's the bear warning?
The other.
Oh, other one.
Now I depart.
Apparently they meant the other left.
I am impressed.
I got like 2 swings in.
Can you survive?
Clearly didn't actually have to pay attention to mechanics, but that's okay. Oh, we actually have to kill the little... I think I get a reflect if I hit the white one. Yeah. I tried to outlive it. I should be able to get a res from the bear warning, I would hope. Because in these old instances, you actually have to run quite a bit back. They don't have the new, nicer spawn points. Oh yeah, I'm back to bacon. Sorry, I missed your message, Bella. But... Yeah, I probably want to put bacon in my top 10 meat choices. Definitely in my top, not in my top 10 foods either. Ah, they got one of those fancy barter items. Okay, now we can maybe talk a little bit more about Yellow Line Guardian here. And I'm going to potentially... Let's see what would be the easiest way to do this. Maybe I can just read it here. I was going to try to show you all the notes to just have some general reference of what I'm talking about. So if I can get this up, well, it will take a moment, but we can get it. We're going to make the font very large so we can see it. Normally I don't like large font, but this will help. And then get rid of that. And make all the text actually readable. So this one, I don't think you're supposed to step in the water if I remember correctly, but maybe it doesn't matter at this point. Wait, you have poison, let's see what it is. Platform provides safety. So yes, you take damage when you're off of it, but it's, you know, it actually does some damage. And if a lot of people stand on a platform, it will collapse like that. It should, in my opinion, should be dynamic based on your character's weight and which type of body skill you use, as well as your armor. Heavy armor, of course, is heavier than light armor, as the name implies, and maybe even your weapon adds a lot of weight. I don't think those mechanics would actually go well, but they would make a little bit more physical sense. Got a few hits in. I really like this instance, but this raid. But obviously not really getting to see much of it besides the general environment as I try to ramble on about the Yellow Line Guardian. But yes, I can finally show that I finally have it up after all this running, and that shows it for you all. Okay. Let's see, I can't really read it though. That is the main problem. And where do I want it? That is out of the way a little bit. That's actually concerning that I fell down for a second. And then Gortheron, I don't think we'll have to really pay attention to all that much here. So, how does that work? And we'll do that so we can see better. There we go. Hopefully that works for you all. We might get ads. No, we don't get ads. I think we just pretty much attack him. Or is it this guy we attack? Oh, it's the big one. Okay, so yes, Yellow Line Guardian. What we have. Force opening, trainable skill. Somebody mentioned, I kind of like that trainable skill might actually be a trait, even though it doesn't say trainable trait. It's not the clearest language, but that you might have to actually put like a trait point or two into a trait to get that skill. Either way, it's something that you can get in the probably in the yellow line and not just as a baseline guardian thing, which makes more sense with the general way that they organized it, I think. Or are we actually killing ads? Maybe. I was gonna try to get all 4 bleeds up, but I don't think that I did. But yes, one of the things that I really liked was the idea of the aura, but oh no, this is the old one. I went through all that effort to find this post, but that is actually the old one. We have to find a newer one. I don't know if it's one of these ones. No, I have to zoom out so I can actually see. Y'all can see there is a lot of, oh, I better leave here. This is why it's better for me to do this a little bit during group gameplay. Okay, here we go. This is the actual post that I want, so I'm just gonna go ahead and copy all this in. And I'm gonna have to go through all this. I will spare you all that window while that is up. I thought I was actually well prepared with that stuff for today, but clearly not as well prepared as I could have been. But I think now we are running the last wing would be what I suspect. Okay, quest-wise, I think I can access my quests up here. We need to... I think this is one of those back and forth type quests where we've already been here for a set of things and just really have to do more stuff in this area up here. Area of Lithui. But yeah, I think for the rest of group content, this experiment did not really work out too well, so I'm going to try to keep it focused on that and not try to pull up the Guardian notes at the same point. I believe I have to maybe hit those roots. I was thinking they'd disappear. But yeah, I got the quest now that I can mine for anybody or pick up. It looked like things you would mine. So I'm collecting rune fragments and destroying fell runes. So the small ones I'm collecting and the large ones I'm destroying. Even though by appearances they look the exact same. Besides one being smaller and larger, of course. Actually, I think one of them might have looked like the texture might have been slightly different. But yeah, for anybody that remembers where this character was, the last stream I did on this Guardian, I remember noting those items and thinking I had to interact with them at some point, but I didn't have that quest, and now I do. But yeah, the central wing of Ostunhoth is probably the one that I have run through the least of all of them. I have run it a few times in my... Ooh, made it. I might have been the only one that made it, because somebody started shooting these guys from behind the gate. No, a few of them made it. A satisfying AoE. I do imagine back in the day at the level 65 cap, which I did not run this on level at 65 cap. I have run it when you could scale it up. I think level 85 it was. This was like for some reason a big instance with the scaling. I remember running it then and it being, at least in our experience, not necessarily the easiest. Also on the legendary servers, this one was fairly tough on tier 2. You'll remember Ivar. I don't know how many times he has come back, but he is also in Ostunhoth. Oh, we're not AoEing. If I could move, I could attack. I guess I could let fly for 3,652 damage. Oh, we failed. Oh, we went in the wrong order. I don't know if we're going to try to reset this for a deed or challenge or something. Okay, I think we're just going to run through this now, it sounds like. And I'm about to go down. Gauntlord Ivar? The one from Agamar? The one from... Is he just in Ivar? I mean, just in Agamar? But he's all over the place. I forget exactly where he shows up, but yes, he is in Agamar and Garthik Arwen. He's also in... Ooh. He doesn't have the prettiest head. He's also in... What's it called? It's not Webs of Scuttledell that he's in, is it? That's the one that came to mind, but North Cotton Farm. I think it's North Cotton Farm that he's in. But he might be in even more stuff. And then this is the one that... The way I've always thought of it is kind of like a zoo. We'll see maybe why I think of this as a zoo. I just call it the zoo fight. Oh, and he's in Skorgrim's Awakening. Oh yeah, he is, isn't he?
It is impressive you have made it this far, but
It will not matter that we have made it this far. Oh, time to get our screenshots.
your
Maybe.
victories here today will be nothing more than a footnote in the history of my reign.
Oh yeah, another random thing about this Guardian's outfit. I talked about the helmet, but the shield, even though I'm using a two-handed weapon, having a shield on your back, I really appreciate those types of cosmetics, non-cloak back cosmetics.
Meaningless wretches. The ritual is complete, and you are too late.
Oh, my cough woke the cat up.
Master has given me a new body, a strong
Can you see
body.
through this cat bed and see an orange speck there for the other cat? Maybe not.
Face me and live. I will carve a path of
Cat carrier back slot would be amazing. Like, just have a cat
and I will
laying in a
with you.
bed that you're carrying like a backpack. That would be amazing.
Hand of the Shire, send forth my minions.
Hey, that one actually looks... Oh, the Shire. I think that's supposed to be, yeah, Thader from Great Barrow. And we're having boars. That's the closest thing to a zoo. But it's almost like... I feel like the way I've thought about it is when these open up like this, they're kind of like... This one's not... Well, they're orgs, but it's... Just makes me think of zoo... What are they called? Exhibits or something like that? So it's something I haven't really thought about, but whenever I come here, it just makes me think of zoos. And as crazy as it is, it's making a little bit of sense to me right now. And then this one is Lost Temple, I think. Maybe? Yeah, that would have to be Lost Temple, wouldn't it? Can't believe I can identify that one. Lost.
Nuns of Thorokel, send forth my
Oh, Ivar's also in Lost Temple. Maybe. Come on. There's a cat butt. Just what you all want to see. And then this one, I'm thinking that is not Sir Kyla, sorry, Surma? Is that the name of the 6-man? Up in Fort Hill? I should probably not be doing, like, I'm up here at the front lines, and the Beorning I don't think is actually very active. Yeah, this isn't that kind of stream. I might be banned from Twitch because of these cats if I were there. Okay. There's a lot of these guys compared to the other ones. I need to actually activate my fairy ore block, but fairy chain so I can get a self heal. There we go. That wasn't the hugest of heals, but got my health up a little bit. I really should just be staying in the back and not fighting these things, but that's no fun. Maybe I should use a potion. Those characters' potions are probably terrible. And I don't think, at least don't remember there being any self-heal on like enemy defeat type mechanic for the Guardian. I think if you're playing the blue line, the closest thing was you might get a heal when you block or something like that. A pretty small heal. I don't know how new that is. It's something I don't remember from the Guardian way back in the day, but it's possible that it's always been there. And something that I more recently became aware of because of the Guardian revamp. And just its actual impact. I think quite a few of these are supposed to be Gondor, but for anybody that doesn't know, Ostunhoth was released in the game quite a bit before they got to Gondor. And I think I've seen maybe one or two. This one in particular. Yeah. I can't quite say exactly where in Gondor. This makes me think maybe the whole... No? This doesn't... Well, no. I was thinking that was more Gondor architecture, but it looks like the same here. Which I think we're still technically supposed to be located in, like in Inuit Dunland region, but I'm not 100% sure with that now.
I call upon Sauron to send me a champion from the depths of Mordor.
Yeah.
Release your hounds from behind the Black Gate.
Yeah.
Send forth an army to destroy these lands.
Hey, there's Gandalf.
Gandalf. No, it cannot be. You fell.
Just like a regular zoo exhibit. Hold up. Just like a regular zoo exhibit. Gandalf.
You're not allowed to interfere. You cannot harm me.
That was Gandalf the Grey. I am Gandalf the White.
Oh. Just crumbled, turned into stone and crumbled. Although he looked already fairly stonish. Oh, it was just a mechanic that was being ridden by Gorthron the whole time. I see. I didn't know they had that type of stuff in Middle-earth, but there we go. These are actually potion of cures, if I remember, or with how they work. Oh, these are out of combat. Okay, I was gonna say, I remember these not actually being as useful as I was initially thinking they were, because you can only use them out of combat. But they don't have like a cap level, and they just remove all debuff effects. It's pretty crazy. But it's only out of combat, which still technically would be useful, but just not as useful. So I got 0 loot this entire run. So, wait, I thought I did loot something. That might have been somebody else. Western, wait. Ah, here it is. They were talking about a sword. Ooh, that's a pretty neat one-handed sword. Problem is, if I use a one-handed weapon, even if it's not the most normal of choices, I like spears usually. I think that is actually what I ended up choosing on this character, just because I could. So I have spear and shield or two-handed hammer. Makes perfect sense for a high elf guardian. But yeah, I believe we are done here with Ostunhoth. Pretty quick run to get all 3 wings done when you're way over leveled. Or in the case of 4 out of 6 people in the group, way over leveled. Oh, we actually still have some RP going on here. Or is that just because I walked near him and clicked him? That would be because I clicked him. So, I think Thorog would be... We initially had Dragok planned for Friday, but we might run all these instances now. Yeah, I'd probably need that on this character. Are you doing just the Thorog or unlocks as well? Don't need to just for me. Okay. Then yeah, I'm gonna swap to my lore master. Okay, so for Thorog, we still haven't gotten to Dwarden, but we're going to switch to Lore Master, which is a very new addition. I'm going to add it to the stream, because at this rate I'm going to be here for like 4 or 5 more hours to get through all the topics. So we're going to call it... Oh, I forgot I actually had a sort of soft plan for the intro for the stream that I totally forgot about until now. So y'all get to hear it like an hour later. So this was supposed to be Guardians and Dwardens, and now, oh my, maybe even Lore Masters. But yes, Lore Master is making an appearance. I think, yeah, this character would work well for unlocking Thorog. Honestly, I wouldn't mind. I don't have a low level captain anymore, but, well, technically I have a low level captain. I don't have a medium level captain anymore. But yeah, Bilal, did I already respond to your comment? Sorry if I did and I'm repeating, but I also hope that Standing Stone Games takes feedback and more changes to the Guardian rework as a whole and the Redline rework. Eventually, I'll get to talking about it a little bit more. Also, I haven't recorded any of this gameplay locally. Oops. That's okay, though. I probably won't pull anything specifically from Ostunhoth. Oh no, this character. If you all think my other characters have bad inventories. Oh, this character's mailbox is somehow empty. Okay. I can salvage this. We're going to send something to Dwarden. And just because I can, we're going to send 2 things to Dwarden. And then we're going to get VIP rewards. And we're going to see how scary my vault is. Ooh, okay. That's better than I thought. As sad as it is, 115 out of, like, having 5 spaces was better than I thought. Okay, that's still Ostunhoth. I'm tempted to delete these. Pet morale. If that ever becomes useful, then, well, sucks for me. Yeah, closer on level would be at least more entertaining, I guess. I mean, I would have been perfectly happy to run this very LOTRO kind of bag space. Yeah. But I would have been perfectly happy to run this all like on level-ish at like 60, but I think we're going to have a couple high levels, more or less, plow through it for us. Okay, this inventory is terrible, but that might be okay for now. I can just sell these low level potions. I don't need them. The thing with... Wait, did I destroy a tracery when I could disenchant it? That's the exact problem with traceries, is these are more or less useless for me, but I want to save them just in case I ever need ancient script, even though I have like 80,000 of them. Inventory could be better. That I think is underselling the issues here. This character used to also have a full mailbox. I wouldn't be surprised if stuff got deleted just because I never properly collected those. But he is basically my reward track alt at this point. But hey, now I can advance this random quest here. Destroy that. Goodbye fireworks. Oh no. We don't need the Doom of Karis Gelebrin themes. Actually, I might. We don't need the mural alcove. Oh wait, what is this new icon? When did this change? Oh, it's pretty neat, but when did this happen? Y'all also might notice I'm in Blue Line. Blue Line actually does have like one good thing about it. The entire Blue Line spec, I honestly do consider, technically two good things. Okay, in the entire Blue Line spec, I consider there to be two good things with the Lore Masters. Murder of Crows, and that they have an eagle somewhere in here at some point somehow. That's pretty much it. So Murder of Crows just does... I don't know if it's still the case, but early in implementation and in beta, I remember noting that it was perhaps the single strongest ability in the game for just maximum potential damage output. So that one is really strong and kind of plays towards the Crow Raven theme that Lore Masters have going on. It came at the cost of Sikkim, which I think is something that isn't... Oh, we went the wrong way, I think. It's something that I, of course, was sad to lose. But yeah, that's pretty much the good stuff about the Blue Line Lore Master. And the motivation for this... Oh boy, I already tried this earlier in the middle of a raid to show stuff. But I think for this one... I don't know, are people more familiar with Heligrod than they are Ostunhoth? I know I have done Heligrod a whole lot more than I have run Ostunhoth. That's why I decided, perhaps way too late into Ostunhoth, just to refocus on the raid itself. I'm getting some hits. But... But yeah, I think this could be an easier instance for me to talk about some of the stuff. So with the Lore Master, we got the very first potential, not just potential, we got the very first preview, and I'm going to try to do this very scarily here. Okay, let's go ahead and copy this. This is probably the easiest way so I can actually read this stuff as well. So we're going to Control Enter a few times, hit this. Actually, I need to adjust this myself. But here, I'm going to put somebody on follow. We're going to follow Not Illogical. That is a very not illogical decision to follow him. We're gonna do that. Why is there a white background? I've never had this happen before. Okay, apparently I caused issues here, which is not ideal. Don't worry. I should have it fixed in a moment here. I hope y'all don't mind me taking the time to get this, because I think it actually will be helpful once I actually get it down and covered. Unfortunately, I have to do this in a maximized window, and I don't know, it's easier for me to just do it than try to talk about what I'm doing here. And Google Docs is being slightly on the buggy side. Okay, I think I'm actually good to show this now. So if we go to desktop, there we go. We're just going to have half the screen blocked, but again, we're not in the most interesting part of content here. Oh. Here I can res. Oh, we got it. Okay, there we go. We can see that, right? So this is on Magma Hall, I believe, is the one who posted this. Okay. There we go. About the Lore Master. So there is a little bit new here from when I originally saw this post. And essentially with the Lore Master, it looks like they are starting to think about a revamp. And in particular, I remember the initial post that I read seemed to be focused primarily on pets, and that was pretty much it. But I'm curious now what more they have here. So conversation with the Lore Master. Lore Masters, yes, they fill the unique support role. And LOTRO, in particular, debuff. I think that's something that maybe could be emphasized a little bit more. That's really what the Lore Masters and Burglars do. They also have some other utility that like helps round out their support, but they're two of the more primary debuff specs in terms of support. There's also Captain, which is more on the buff end of support, for example. But here they actually talk about, yeah, support can mean different things. I definitely think that. So what the class does well, what bugs you, not what bugs there are, but what bugs you, and what you feel might need a bit of improvement. And then some preliminary thoughts about specific aspects of the class, pets, DPS skills and ability, and primary support primary skills. So one of the things I like about LOTRO is that there is a support role, and that there is, like with the Lore Master, you have the option to play Yellow Line and focus on support. Same with Burglar. You have the... It really bothers me. I can't see my character's health right now. But you have the Yellow Line Burglar, Yellow Line Lore Master. But these classes also have DPS specs. I realize, especially in the group content situation, I really need to spec Red Line. I don't like Blue Line. Besides that one ability again, but it doesn't matter here. But... yeah, the DPS specs haven't always been the most viable. In my experience, sometimes the Red Line Burglar has dished out some decent damage. In certain contexts, the Lore Master, Red Line Lore Master has as well. But on the whole, in group content, they're going to be most valued in their support spec. That's something that I, just like with other classes that can, for example, heal, I think the support should be treated just the same, where ideally, no matter which specialization that you go into, whatever role it fills, that spec should be viable in that role. So I think that's one of the biggest things with Lore Master that I would like to see perhaps improved upon, made to be able to fill on the DPS just like any other DPS, and you wouldn't feel bad for, one, taking a Red Line Lore Master, and two, you wouldn't feel bad for playing Redline Lore Master if you're on an LM compared to another spec, such as Yellow Line. I have to move this down to leave instance. Yeah, we leave instance, go to the next swing. Sorry, I'm being slow. I think. Am I the only one leaving? It makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong here. Hello, Shinhiro. I think they were like stuck on old LOTRO where you like could actually go to the different instances and that different wings. But yeah, that's just some general things that I think with the Lore Master, that hopefully they have some goals to achieve that type of thing with the update. Let me try to get this back where it was. That should work. Okay, so the other thing that they talk about here, it looks like the next thing is about pets in general. And if y'all have seen my recent videos, I have complained a lot about pets, in particular Lore Master pets in LOTRO. Mainly the general way that they're used and their general impact levels that they have nowadays. In fact, this actually reminds me, I had a video that I wrote maybe a month or two ago. I think the script, if you want to call it that, is basically complete at this point. It was called the Lore Master Problem. It was kind of themed after my old Redline Beorning problem videos, which I hope to get to another one of those this summer. And the general idea of the Lore Master Problem video, I am hoping to actually get to it. One of the things with a video like this that I was kind of thinking, also if y'all don't know, in the swing the fellowship markers are a little bit bugged, but yeah, the thing with this video is it was not necessarily meant to be all negative, even though a lot of it was complaining. I actually really like the Lore Master class. I have played it a decent bit, and I enjoy it. I enjoy a lot of the ideas of it, but there's a couple particularly big things that hold it back that basically comprise this so-called, what I call, the Lore Master Problem. And the two big things we just talked about, being able to viably fill the DPS role, as well as the pets, and just general use of them and that sort of stuff. So that's the idea with that video that I haven't gotten to and hopefully will release, but maybe that gives you all a time frame for my project. Because I have this video like basically to the point where I could just record it, slap some gameplay, ideally do some more polishing than just that, but basically do that, upload it, and there we go. I have a video that would hopefully be decently received. And I've had that in that process for like 2 months where it could have been doing all that. Hello, Ivan. What are we doing today? Experimenting with very new formats of trying to look at LOTRO forums posts in a Google Docs because it's terrible to read the LOTRO forums on that small of a window. And we're doing Heligrod, but we can't see my character's health, so that's fun, and can't see anybody in the group, and we're just basically following along as high levels one-shot everything. Hopefully you'll find that entertaining. To me, this part is actually relatively easy to talk about the class changes, as they just kind of run us through this for the most part. But yes, the other part with the Lore Master here is, do you engage with the pet rotation? I was super excited to see this because that means that Standing Stone Games is aware of the pet cycling is what I have called it, but pet rotation, it's really semantics at that point. And they are wondering if you engage with it. I think I tried once and that was it. And then if you do, how do you feel about it? Let's see. I don't think it really matters, but I think a question they could ask is, if you don't, why not? Is it just don't want to or don't like the idea of it? But then also wondering if you like that it adds activity or raises skill ceiling. I actually have seen that people have commented that, you know, it's something that just makes the class a little bit more engaging. Maybe they feel like they want to have enough stuff to do otherwise. And then for me, I don't necessarily, tedious, yes. Overwhelming, not necessarily. It also stems to me not really liking Lore Master support, like playing it, just because I prefer to make things explode with fire, lightning, and frost. So yeah, but I as I have talked about, I think in more than one video recently, and perhaps this upcoming Lore Master problem video, maybe I should do that before we get too many revamp details, so it's out and not like outdated right away. Oh, I should run away. It's gonna be a miracle if I don't like just die in this, because I can't see my health and I'm actually relatively low level compared to the group. I don't think I'm low enough level that I'm getting XP. I think they're like just off that cutoff. But yeah, that's pretty much it with the Lore Master cycling. I think with pets, let's see. Do you find, yes, using different pets in different circumstances, that's another area where I feel they're weak. I honestly think that ideally to me, each pet should have something unique about it, but you should never feel bad for having a particular pet out. Like, it shouldn't be maybe that big of a difference in what they are, oh, I guess I gotta leave instance, and what they are capable of, where you, yeah, just shouldn't feel bad about. Also, I just realized I have there's a reason I used to have the cat cam on the bottom right. It's the hide kin chat. It's not the biggest deal, but it's just something that sometimes people will share like personal things in kin they don't necessarily want to broadcast to everybody on YouTube. I know it's kind of crazy, but it's not actually crazy. But that is why I have the cat cam there, and I just realized we might actually be able to have a better viewing experience if I go like this. Wow. Ivan, maybe that gives you an idea of how blind I am playing today as well. How like experimental today's stream has been. I've really enjoyed it. Hopefully you all have as well. Now I'm really playing. Maybe we can look at my character's health. Okay, that. Whew, I feel a lot more comfortable just being able to see my character's health. I can't see anybody in the kin if they die again and need a res. Last time I was absolutely zero help with that. Maybe we can even go in cinematic mode, but then I can't see my character's health, but then it's more like a movie, so win-win. I might actually have to pay attention to mechanics here, though. Maybe I'll be one of the ones that stands at the top, so I don't really have to do anything. And obviously, I guess for anybody curious, just to point out, I actually would do helpful stuff if this required it, but we have level 140s just basically one-shotting everything. Although I did get a few ticks of a murder of crows there, so I'm kind of happy. But yeah, there's basically nothing I can do to actually speed this run up or help the group advance. If anybody is curious, it basically me just pressing buttons to see cool effects, which sometimes is nice. But if I can talk about the Lore Master while having this nice raid going on in the background, I don't know. It's different. And sometimes it's fun to change it up. Anyway, if we can get back to Lore Master, I'm supposed to be talking about them. Let's see. Do you find yourself using different pets in different circumstances? So that was what led to me saying that I think each pet should have something unique about it, but also you shouldn't feel bad for ever having a particular pet out. They said that our clothes look strangely similar. Wonder if there's something similar between this high elf and hobbit. I apparently haven't had a pet out. There we go. Oh. Apparently that Lore Master was lagging, not actually being friends with me. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stand here. I'll claim the spot and be lazy and stand here. So Bella, you haven't played her Lore Master since they killed her favorite pet skill. I'm guessing that is Sikkim. But yeah, that's really how I think the Lore Master pet should be, is you pick a pet and use it. If you like the Bog Guardian, then you should be able to use it. And I think the really big things is the cats. The cat pets, I'm not biased or anything, but I think the cat pets should actually have a reason for existing. And right now they are, for the most part, just not very useful compared to other pets generally. So I think that's something that could take a lot of work. I don't even know a lot of work, but it would take a big rework of the pets to get them in what I would personally consider to be a good spot. Oh, you like wondering where I am HP wise when you can't even see my health? Also, OP, my pet has, as much as I complain about pets, he has over twice my health, almost 3 times. Yes, you can summon a flashlight attack like Gandalf on a lore master. I'll try to show that off. There's one particular skill that is, as far as I can tell, basically that. But do you... Yeah, technically, I think that pets do actively contribute, but I don't feel like they actively contribute. I realize that's using the same words for 2 different meanings, but that is how I describe it for the lore master. Technically, they debuff enemies, and yeah, that... Oh no, did I step off too soon? Can I blame Cat? Wait, I might actually be able to do this. I saw a gate open, but that was not the gate we needed. Also, I did not use that flashlight type attack. But yeah, with the pets, I don't feel like they actively contribute. Maybe that's a better way to put it. There's just, to me, nothing really active about it. They're even in pet cycling, where you just summon a pet for its debuffs, desummon it, summon another pet for its debuffs, etc. That is pretty much how pet cycling works for anybody curious, or what they call pet rotation. It's basically the same thing. That is active gameplay, but to me that wouldn't make it feel like the pets actively contribute, is how I describe it. I feel like I'm making no sense, so let's move on. Now, do you have the opportunities to use the pets you like? No. 100% not. Technically, I can, of course, use whatever pet I want, but actually feeling like it contributes somewhat meaningfully, even like a little bit meaningfully, not really. And then, yes, feel like I'm either locked into a few types or statically, or in constant pet rotation, which is what they talk about here. Cat, Mint, Raven, Boglurker, Bear. I think those would be the main pets that people would cycle. They have Raven, Boglurker, and Bear. Those are the main ones that I know that do debuffs. I don't know. For some reason, I thought people also cycled at one point the Friend of Nature pet, the healing one. Okay, let's see the Lore Master flashlight attack before somebody else kills it. There it is. It's not the most epic one, it's that far away, but that is pretty much it. There are some other ones that are kind of similar-ish. Here's Blinding Flash. It's an AoE that has a very bright, brief flash like that sort of emanates above your head. Blinding Flash, that's actually the single target one. That's on a single enemy. The other one was Bane Flare. So hopefully that shows you some of the effects. I have of all my videos, the April Fool's Corsair video, I actually have a zoom-in version of the Light of the... Wait, why am I thinking? Yes, Light of the Rising Dawn. I don't know if that was a little brain fart, but I was like, there's no way a skill in LOTRO is called Light of the Rising Dawn. But there is. It's always been named that. Hello, Kevin. And Professor Andre from Brazil. That is far away. Although, I actually don't know what time zone. I imagine Brazil has multiple time zones within the country, but I actually don't know if it's... Yeah, how it differ from where I am. That would be Eastern US. Okay, otherwise, what do we have going on here? Yeah, so that's, I don't know, some of my thoughts with the pets. Hopefully it makes sense and it's not complete incoherent babble. And kind of like Bella, thought I'd actually read comments a little bit more on this, but kind of like Bella, you say that you love cat pets, but yeah, you usually use the bear for tanking. And to me, that can make a little bit of sense. It's kind of tough with a bear. I like having pets that do specific things, but if you're looking for just generally filling a role or filling DPS or just having a pet out, that's more so when I think they could be. Again, no reason to feel bad for choosing the pet that you pick. And yeah, maybe solo, there could be a little bit more reason to pick cats. Maybe they do more damage than the bear would be the big thing. And your bog guardian cats, or maybe you could have, see, that's the thing. This might make pets less meaningful in a way, but you could have, it's almost like the old WoW, where you could spec your pets. So you could choose your pet, you want it to be DPS or tanking oriented, but then that wouldn't make sense for some of them, and having that flexibility on bear could lead to issues, so I don't know. As a non-game designer, don't have much of an idea for an ideal solution, but I certainly have thoughts on why I don't like lore master pets, and very strongly don't like the current way lore master pets work, but you know, some ideas. But yeah, that's the thing. When I perhaps talk about, and maybe more in a critical sense, talk about things that they have in LOTRO that I don't like, there are so many factors that go on in things like revamping lore master pets. What about people that maybe do like pet cycling? What about people that maybe think each pet should have a distinctive role and there should always be a best one for a particular situation? People, as crazy as it is, different people have different opinions and different thoughts, basically. So as a game designer, the developers of LOTRO essentially have to take all that into account and try to ideally it would be make the most people happy as possible. Another way to think of it is make the fewest people upset. So maybe you have everybody at a somewhat happy level, like 90% of the player base is like somewhat happy, it could be better, but they're okay with it. But then you have 10% of people that don't like it. Maybe they could shoot for that. Or another option is, what if they could do something that makes 60% of people extremely happy, but then 40% of people extremely upset? I don't know. Okay, I think my job is to just stay back here and throw fire. Press random buttons as I read these lore master changes. So, Magicot, you said you returned to the game after last playing with the release of Mordor. Your videos have been great at getting you caught up. Glad they have been. Hopefully I can continue to have videos getting you caught up. Mordor is... I don't know if it's really a divisive place. I see some people... Oh, cat switched beds. She likes the new one better now. But hey, now the cat cam's filled, but now less cam is blink. Oh. Every time I move this, I'm gonna have to like try to get it back to the previous spot. Where are we? There. That should work. Yeah, Jim, so you have your idea that sometimes less is more, so condensing the pets and having a specific pet for each line. I kind of like that idea, but my personal issue with something like that is that I like having the variety of pets as options, but if I had to compare that type of idea to what we have right now, I would probably prefer it that way because it is easier to, say, balance. But I think that would really help with the Yellow Line Lore Masters you point out, which is quite bloated with the amount of abilities and just number of abilities they have for debuffs and the such. Okay, so it looks like we're at the last wing of Helagrod already. I paid a little bit of attention to the, the actual game we're supposedly playing. I got a cat staring at these bog guardians. Yeah, she is like staring at that bog guardian that's right here. Head tilted and everything. Oh, she caught somebody else. She caught... I think that's not illogical. Okay, I cannot see. I guess I don't need to see if I'm paying attention to the little window on the left here. Okay, so let's move on, finally, to... Oh, it's actually more about pets. So they're... Okay, yes, they're eyeing some pet things. And some of the ideas that they have is pet summoning cooldown. I think that could greatly improve the pet cycling issue. And then, yeah, you use your any given pet skill repeatedly. I'd also think as nice as it is that lore masters can say, summon the bear, have it taunt, bear dies, summon the bear, have bear taunt, bear dies. Meanwhile, lore master lives, and you can solo like very difficult content with that method. I have personally used that method back at like level 50 to solo when this, I think it was this character specifically when he was weak at level 50. This might have been before level 60 even came out on the legendary servers, when balance was actually not terrible at level 50. No, well, maybe. If I remember correctly, that's somewhat about... Oh, there's the... I was going to say naked, but invisible human thing popping up. That was actually my first time seeing that in the game. For all I know, it's happened like 20 times today. But... what was I going on about? But yeah, I totally lost my train of thought with the lore master. But yeah, that's something that I think could improve the general pet rotation. Where is Brink of Victory? Oh, he's actually rezzing, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, we have another lore master. They could have rezzed this whole time. But let's see, why contain it? You said that some games do choices like that as trait choices, so you can find trait that makes the pet same or make pet cycling good. Yeah, that is something that could give you the option to choose how you want your lore master pets to work. That would be tough to balance, but that is an entire possibility of something they could do. That way for somebody like me, who, mind you, doesn't even play Yellow Line Lore Master, but just very much so dislikes the idea of pet cycling, I could be perfectly fine not pet cycling, while some people who like it could choose to do that. Look, I made 2 cat beds, so they no longer have to fight over this one. It's been going crazy the past week, where they haven't quite fought, but what Piper will do, she's the one in the cat cam right now, the bigger one. If Lexi is in this bed and Piper really wants in it, Piper will just get in it, and that makes Lexi a little bit uncomfortable. She'll be fine for a little bit, but they, it ends up that Piper takes over the bed, essentially, and more or less steals it from Lexi. Here's the beautiful Thorog. I kind of forgot how, is mange the right word? He has some skin issues going on. Needs some lotion or something. And yeah, that's actually a really great idea, I think, Jim, about a way to tackle blue is make pet selection, and make pet selection important, is to make certain skills have additional effects based on the pet you have summoned. I think that could be a really interesting way to do it. If I remember correctly, WoW has maybe not the same, maybe it's a little bit different, or in the past they had something similar, where maybe it's a utility ability, and maybe it's with Warlock, not even Hunter pets. But they could get a utility ability that's based on the pet they have, so I think it like removed magic effects, maybe one was an interrupt, something like that. But that could be a pretty neat idea. And I think even for like DPS lore master, not even necessarily Yellow Line lore master. So yeah, that's something that could be interesting. Okay. So yeah, that looks like just one idea that they're having to do it kind of like the captain pets. I think they could do better than that, but as something that would work to change pet cycling to not really be as much of a thing anymore, and some of the other issues with it that aren't necessarily just pet cycling, I think that's something that could work. But I don't know if it's as far as like a full pet revamp to make pets, to me at least, a way that I actually like the way Lore Master Pets work in game. I don't think that's quite much of a say enough. I hate to say the word enough, like I'm just saying more for the revamp, but it's more that to get the class pets or whatever it is spec in line of where my ideal envision for it would be, at least, is it would require additional work essentially. But I'm thinking for Dragok, it sounds like that's what we're doing again. I feel bad, but I've ignored my kin chatter this whole time, basically. I'm going to go back to my Guardian. We're still not getting to Dwarden, but hey, maybe eventually. Maybe I'll have a snack and be here till like 1 a.m. I technically don't have anything scheduled tomorrow, and after the super busy what did I say? What was I saying? I got distracted. Oh yeah, but I don't have anything scheduled tomorrow, so I could. It's to me, it's fun to the idea of streaming for even 4 or 5 more hours. Although I'm already tired, and that's way past my bedtime. Okay, back to Lore Master. DPS oriented Lore Master. I agree. Oh, we're off the Lore Master, but let's try to get through this. So they have some interesting skills and mechanics, but overall repertoire can feel sometimes quite thin. I might actually log back on my Lore Master. They're discussing what's going on. Once I find out what I need to do, that is what I'll focus on, actually doing that. But the thing with Redline Lore Master to me, in general, is I actually like how unique it is. So it's a little bit funky, and that you have a lot of high power but long cooldown abilities. Instead of like moderate power, moderate cooldown type abilities, I guess would be the closest comparison, or like, but then you also have some more slowly built over time lower cooldown abilities. You have the whole Burning Embers, Gust of Wind rotation. You, as far as I remember, that's most of it. You do have some more of like moderate cooldown, moderate strength abilities with things like Cracked Earth, Lightning Strike. It doesn't Lightning Strike have a 10-second cooldown maybe? But I think overall there's a lot of great things about DPS Lore Master that does make it fun to me. If I switch to Redline, that would be so much better to actually give me a frame of reference for what abilities I have. So yeah, you have 30-second cooldown abilities, Sticky Gourd, Ring of Fire. Those are fairly high impact. Then you have really high impact ones like Lightning Storm, Nature's Fury, and if you are a blue line spec Lore Master, that would be like Murder of Crows would be an example of that. You have Insco to War is a little bit more utility than just raw AoE damage, but it does good AoE damage. Okay, so are we discovering Dragok? Okay, so do I have to go on a character that's discovered it? Oh, okay. I'll go back to my Guardian then, sorry. Looks like we do not have to discover. I thought you always had to discover Dragok. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with the content that I'm supposedly participating in, making a meaningful contribution to. That is bad. Oh yeah, this isn't him, is it? That is, okay. For some reason I was getting mixed up. I was like, I couldn't remember what exactly happened there. Yeah, I'm remembering you transferring him. I kind of forgetting the whole Jimber part. Because yeah, I think last I heard you were going through like northern Mirkwood, Arid Mithrin type area. Actually, I remember something. But this character here, he is actually one of the big reasons that I got into Warden, to totally get off the lore master subject. But yeah, that is a character he used to have on Arkenstone and transferred it to whatever server we're on. What is it, Landreval? So, yeah, then he changed him into a dwarf. So he was a hobbit named Spookfast, Hobbit Warden, and changed him into a dwarf because he plays a lot of dwarfs named Jimber. And yeah, I don't think I've actually seen this character. I imagine he's going to look a bit bigger and a bit different. Yeah, I don't actually need to discover. I don't know, I thought you had to discover Dragok. We can go back to the regular game view for now, because I actually do want to pay attention to Dragok a little bit. And it has been so long since I've been here. I honestly don't even know that I've done it on a character on this server or one that was previously on Anor. Just Dragok is not run all that much. I think it could be fun to run on level at some point, but the main things that I remember... Oh, that did one-shot me. That's actually pretty neat. But the main things I remember is fighting the claws and then eventually going down to the bottom and fighting the belly. Wow, I get 3 buffs from charge / brutal charge. That's kind of funny. Icon clutter. We've talked about bag clutter, skill clutter. Oh gosh, I actually have to pay attention to where I run. I'm not used to that. Okay, is there a reason you don't see... Oops. This is so bad for me to not pay attention. Is there a reason I don't see many players wearing cloaks? Is it a special item or class locked or anything like that? No. Personally, for me, why I don't wear cloaks, I can't speak for everyone, is I just tend to not like them, and LOTRO has a good variety of other back items, things that are other than cloaks, so I like to wear things that are not cloaks. Again, also not a fan of cloaks. It's one of the things when I go back to World of Warcraft that I have not enjoyed as much in that game is just how many cloaks there are. I honestly forgot. I don't remember this part of Dragok at all to even get down to like where you start to approach him. Okay, so he's going through that one on Breathing Fire. Okay, I think we're safe here. Just don't get caught in the dragon flashlight eye things. Oh, that looks scary. I think I have run this more than once, but at this point it's basically as if I've... Oh gosh, that's scary. Basically, we're gonna scooch on over here. Let's make a run for it. Oh. Well, that's the toughest raid I've ever done. It's not even done. I have, if you all saw my old screenshots video, when did I do that? Last year, maybe? I don't remember when I did it, but I did a video on my old screenshots, and I had some here in Dragok. But he's a neat dragon. I don't really run this that much, so it's always special to me to actually get in here and run this. I don't even know if my description of the mechanics is even halfway close to accurate. I do know you have to do fellowship maneuvers to do much damage to him. I don't know at this point if you can just out DPS whatever mechanics there are, or if he actually does 100% require FMs. I also forget exactly why you need 6 people, but I know it requires 6. Yeah, I think we'll get back to talking about Lore Master after this, for anybody curious. I really do kind of hate to cut that off, but we have to follow the content a little bit. Plus, I think clearing my mind of Lore Master stuff will help me maybe be a little bit more clear when we go about it again. Just going to go get snack. I could use snack right now. But hey there, Martu. And you said that you are downloading LOTRO as we speak, a pending assignment for years. Wow, hopefully you enjoy LOTRO. Or if you're returning, hopefully you enjoy it again. And Shiniro, you also need to get back into LOTRO. It's, you know, it's pretty fun if you focus on the fun focus on the fun stuff. I feel like you could say that about anything, but that is, I don't know, especially with update 35. Not that there's anything in particularly bad about it, but just there's some stuff that has annoyed me about it. Oh, hey. Wait, that probably triggered something. I was like, I just want to click the treasure. Am I the highest level guardian? Yikes. Alright, we're the mighty level 107 tank here in a group of level 135 Baywarning and 140 champion. So we click the treasure when he says to. Oh yeah, LOTRO, unfortunately, it is a relatively slow download. Believe it or not, it used to be way slower, but they've made some improvements. I'm thinking roughly past couple of years that have actually sped it up quite a bit in my experience. Were 2 of us supposed to be down here?
What's this? Come for your share of riches. Seek you your place in history.
Okay, so am I not tanking?
Dragons. Know you not who I am?
Okay, yes, I'm perfectly happy with that.
Introduce myself.
I hope I go this way. I don't actually know, but I think I go this way. Trust me, I have run this. I am a Dragok expert. I have gotten loot.
To pass beneath my wings. Mighty was Smaug the Golden, brought unto ruin by mischief and trickery, and still
I'm 100% Dragok expert here. I'm definitely going in the right direction. There's actually a map. I'm kind of surprised.
Come then, wretched fools, your death is at hand. Here, let me give it to you.
I used to sit there and pretend I was doing stuff. I mean, I do the same now. There we go. Oops, I just went in a giant circle. Where did they go? Oh, they actually went down this way, I think. You know what, I'm just gonna jump down. Nope. Believe it or not, You're supposed to actually go in a complete circle like that is the optimal way to warm up your character's legs for improved DPS in this fight. Oh, they've already killed, I think, 5 of his feet. Wait, 5 of his feet? They've killed 3. Now they've killed 4. Do we just attack the body now? Wow, what could go wrong? Hammer down. Speaking of Guardian revamp, an ability that I really like is actually Hammer Down. It's got the impact of a 40-second cooldown ability. It just does a whole lot of upfront damage. It's been a while since I played my high level Guardian. I don't know how well that actually scales at higher levels, but it does quite a bit. I forget what abilities I've used. I might actually get through all 4 of my bleeds in this. That would be pretty crazy. I currently have 3 bleeds up. Okay. There we go. Got all 4 bleeds up. It took a while, but we got them all.
Even in death, I shall not be bested. With my last breath, I will make
But yeah, Hammer Down in general. Quite nice. So, you're walking through Dracok's vast treasure hoard. I sure am. My character should hit the gold cap after this, I think. Ooh, don't want to die from one of these spikes. We're following some secret path, I guess, to the bigger treasure room. Yeah, improved blood flow buff. Very important for this fight. Immune. Got 10 medallions. So Kanan, you're a new player in Middle Earth. Oh, you like my videos. Glad you do. Hopefully you enjoy Arkenstone. I used to be there. But exactly when the new crafting system will be released, I have no idea, to be honest. I'll pass that for somebody else that really wants it. Let's have a jump and a roll and a block. Oh, this character is not that level anymore. For a long while, this character was in the 75 to 80 range just because that's like Rohan, and I got through a lot of fun leveling on the Guardian that way, but it does mean that, like, yeah, I'm used to this character being that level. And that's a lot of physical mastery. Yeah, the point was these pieces could have actually been an upgrade for this character, but then I remembered she is 105 Valor to get up to Mordor and skip Rohan, essentially. But yeah, I went through... I don't think I did too much of this on stream, because that's back when I was at home on, I think 2020 summer. And... let's see, what was the point? Yes, I went through, like, all of the... Not Fangorn. I have to go to the map. That's so embarrassing, because actually... Limelight Gorge. I went through all the Limelight Gorge quests solo, actually. It was pretty fun. Yeah, I think we are, despite it saying defeat Dragok after fully weakening him. I think we are actually done with this. We got our loot and everything, so I'm going to leave. Yeah. I am stuck. Oh no. I am spot stuck in the terrain. I'm not sure there's any way out. Can I fight a mob out of line of sight? Oh, actually it was briefly in line of sight, I think. Here, let's try F4. That might hit it. Well, I think unstuck takes you to your milestone location, but I think that also takes like a minute. Oh, to the nearest rally point, that works. So in 1 minute, we will be ported. I believe for group activities, for anybody curious, we are... Okay, I might die, but that is another free port. I believe we are... done with group content for the day. That'd be fun. So, retreat. I'm going to take a moment to bring back up the Guardian changes, make sure those are okay. Almost. Yes, okay, this is the updated, the update to the Guardian update notes. And there are some, I'm going to be 100% honest, to me, concerning things in here, but it's not all, like, just bad stuff, of course. But yeah, I remember seeing some things, because I skimmed over it, didn't look at it in too much detail, because I was planning on looking at more with y'all in stream. That was yesterday, but can do it today as well. So I will, once we actually get this group more or less disbanded, I think that's the wrong ability, but I want to show off the Guardian's power on the war steed. There we go, that was a pretty big hit. But it is the weirdest thing. This character, compared to all my other more DPS oriented characters, is by far the highest damage one on the war steed. Because you'd totally expect that with the melee Guardian. And with a worse bridle, I have no idea if that's... What's the deal with this character's bridle now? Looks like I don't even have one. Great. But this character had a terrible bridle, basically. And could one-shot mobs like 3-4 levels above hers. Whereas my other characters could not even do that to under-leveled mobs. So it's pretty crazy just how strong, how much damage the Guardian does on the war steed. It's actually been the most entertaining class to me from a war steed perspective, even more so than something like Hunter. This is not the best highlight of it. We're also well past the Rohan level, so the war steed itself is like kind of bad, and again, I have no bridle now, but if you've seen some of my Guardian gameplay with war steed, I think I have like one proper clip banked up, so I tend to repeat that particular one a lot when I talk about mounted combat. It's yeah, surprisingly to me the most fun class to do mounted combat on. Let's see, we have to go up. I forget if there's only one entrance. I'm thinking there is. But there, yeah, there is a second one. Never mind. Okay. So let's see, I need to, yes, just pick up items. I think that's pretty much it for questing. There Let's see, I have a turn-in back at camp. The Ethelstone. I have no idea where that is, to be honest. That's also for turn-in. And the Lost Lore of Gorgroth, of course, it's just throughout the place. So we're actually on track with the quest. Let me double check that. Let's see. Yes, I am actually on track with quests. That is actually crazy. I know this is what I've been doing, but I did not realize I was actually just basically had this one quest out here. Okay, so as we get progress on the Guardian, and can start talking perhaps a little bit about the update coming to Guardians, and some new thoughts that I have on Standing Stone Games' new thoughts on the Guardian. So I'm going to try to show this here. We're back to experimental mode here. And I think you all can let me know where this window works best and if you can read it. I have the font turned way up, so it's hopefully legible. I think I could even go a little bit larger, it looks like, or a little bit more space like that, a little bit more horizontal space. So let's see, this is a little bit hard to read because it's a small window for me, but it looks like after yesterday's, would have been like when I made that video. After that discussion, they went back to the whiteboard to look at things a little bit more, which is great. I want to highlight again that this is the type of thing that I feel like will really just help with general class changes, class revamps, and the such moving forward. Oh, it would be neat if I could add chat to this, but that might be a bit much for today. But yes, it's something that, let's see, what was I going on about? Yes, I think it's great that they are doing this because it means that they can actually get player feedback of what the players want out of the classes before they do big changes to classes. I know this has led to negative reactions when sometimes they have made adjustments to classes that people don't like. Sometimes I think in certain contexts it can be okay for Standing Stone Games to not announce things and do more surprise type things. But with class changes like this, class revamps, typically, unless they do something to prove otherwise, I think in pretty much all cases it would be better for them to basically do what they're doing now with what we saw with the Warden, the Captain, and now the Guardian, the Lore Master coming up. I think the Minstrel is one of the big ones that kicked it off, that they kind of did decent communication in beta, but it was basically the changes they had were set in stone and, in a sense, not really developed with players. I don't know if that's quite the best terminology to use, but it kind of gives that sense that the players are actually given some control in where the classes moved going forward. Looks like I have a black Mordor. Oh, this isn't one of those fancy chests. This is when you're in Mordor, this is one of the regular chests, but I don't know, still has maybe useful, maybe stuff for me, maybe. But yeah, one of the things I was thinking about talking about with the Guardian revamp, maybe before I get into too many details, focusing on the red line. I've touched a little bit on this in the video, but what does Redline Guardian actually need changed? So, to me, I like the general gameplay. Again, the gameplay that we have had throughout this stream and right now is not representative of all Redline Guardian gameplay. These are, despite my undergearedness here in Mordor, these are very short fights where mobs die without much care for what abilities I use. These mobs will die fairly quickly. And sometimes even just outright one-shot them. So this is not representative of long duration gameplay. We can technically, maybe after this quest, we can look at some longer duration Redline gameplay. Perhaps in the context of a training dummy where you're just spamming your DPS rotation more or less. It'd be good for me to work on that. It'd probably be a very rough rotation to start. Also with the keeping in mind my LI is low level and I have some tracers, but it's obviously not optimized. I think if I remember correctly, no, Ignore the Pain might not have one, but Stamp, I think Stamp has a pretty impactful tracery that reduces its cooldown. And there are just things like that and legendary items that could just make it even different than what I would get from that. So I guess what is the question? What is the question? What could be improved about Redline Guardian? And to me, there are some funky things about it. As much as I enjoy it and the overall feel of the Redline spec, there's some funky things about the general rotation and placement of abilities and like what systems they were put in for the Redline Guardian. So I think I made a video, one of the videos that I talked about the specs, I forget which one, it could have been the spec ranking. As much as I love the Redline Guardian, I kind of get the sense that there isn't anything that brings all their different systems together. So they have the parry chain, they have the bleed system, they also have heavy hitting abilities, and they have things like To the King, which gives them a buff. I'd consider that like a good capstone for the parry chain, but it's also heavy hitting. For some reason, I was thinking at one point, Overwhelm just does a ton of damage, so it's just one of those types of abilities. It also can convert a bleed. So that one kind of is playing to two themes, but there's nothing that really emphasizes its high immediate damage impact. And then you have things like Hammer Down, which again is just super strong, deals damage, smushes enemies to the ground, flattens them. Yeah, that's pretty much what it does. And then you have quick attack abilities. Sting is almost like a filler ability, but this is actually an ability that, unless something has changed, as far as I'm aware, you basically want to use Sting on cooldown. It's not necessarily that it's the highest priority ability, but generally you will optimize your Redline Guardian gameplay by using Sting on cooldown. So in a sense, it's like a higher priority ability based on that, or more frequently used. And then outside of that, you have some abilities that just don't have much going on for them. For Redline, Guardian's Ward, I think it does, I'd have to remind myself on the numbers, it does damage. It does more than I actually thought it did, to be honest. I think, yeah, it has not the fastest animation. Sting is a lot faster animation, so Sting probably has higher DPS. DPS in this case being damage per animation time. And then Stamp, that's a regular interrupt often used as animation cancel. Vexing Blow is like a basic AoE ability that it just does fairly weak AoE damage. It's kind of like an AoE filler with a 4-second cooldown. That's not terrible. Sweeping Cut is an AoE bleed, just kind of random there. And then Brutal Assault, single target ability that is eventually a decent bleed. Stagger is a debuff, but it does some damage. I think it's something that is probably the fallback if you have nothing else of use, in particular in single target. Like if you have everything up and running, that is probably the filler ability out of all the other ones we have talked about after all the other ones. And then Guardian's Ward might be lower priority than Stagger. So I don't know, that's a general rundown of some Redline Guardian abilities. Hopefully I didn't forget anything important. Also, hopefully I don't forget to not die. That would be ideal. So I think, oh, we didn't really talk about the individual parry chains, but that's okay. With the parry chain, in general, retaliation is just much better than rolling retaliation. It's a lot faster animation, and you can get to the powerful things in the parry chain, like thrust and overwhelm. And then, of course, that unlocks To the King, which is valuable for not only its high damage, but it has the buff, self buff, for decreased attack duration and increased damage. So it's good to maintain that. But the thing that I find odd is some of these filler abilities just don't necessarily have to have something special about them, but it seems like there could be. Like there is room for them to do something with some of these abilities. One of the ideas I had is that you have something like Brutal Assault maybe letting Vexing Blow spread Brutal Assault bleed, just something like that. It doesn't have to be like that, but I think that's something that could make Redline Guardian feel a little bit more rounded and maybe give it a little bit more AoE impact. Oh, this lag's not great. So I think that's something that could be brought to the Redline Guardian. Another thing that I really miss from the old Redline Guardian is the stacking bleeds, where I think any bleed ability you would use would just go to the stacking Guardian bleed. I thought that was actually a pretty fun mechanic. I think it's something that could even fit in modern day Burglar, but that's a whole different conversation. So that is something I find myself missing a little bit from the old one. Could potentially be interested in something like that coming back in some form. In particular, I was thinking with Brutal Assault, what if Brutal Assault could stack with itself to give you more reason to use Brutal Assault more frequently? Because that's an ability that does have a long cooldown, but with Tireless Blows you can reset that and the such. So I don't know, giving you more reason to use Brutal Assault, because the way I would describe it, and I've seen some comments with this, I might even have mentioned it in my video, is it just doesn't feel brutal enough. It seems like it should be a higher impact ability just based on you having 11 traits surrounded, like 11 traits for it in the red line. I think, is this one of the quests you have to get absolutely everyone? I don't think so. So we can just progress east. Gorchio, thank you for joining the stream. Hopefully you enjoyed it in my Redline Guardian ramble right now. The cat sure is. Maybe she's enjoying seeing the cursor move around the screen more. But yeah, if y'all have any thoughts, of course, feel free to chime in. Otherwise, this is just going to be me rambling to myself, which is fine. And I can't see. That was a good hammer down crit. But yeah, outside of gameplay and general rotation, actually I haven't gotten to thrust. So one of the things that I liked with their initial thing was having thrust outside of the parry chain. I think that opened up some more possibilities of some bigger changes, like positive changes to the general Redline Guardian gameplay. Because to me it doesn't necessarily have to make it bad flow, but it just feels odd that thrust is a second tier of the parry chain along with overwhelm. It seems like those two abilities have synergy, but they don't really have anything that makes them synergize well in the gameplay, even though again they have synergy in that overwhelm turns the thrust bleed into a stronger bleed, so it improves that bleed. I think that type of idea, mechanic, is not bad, but again, how did I get stuck here? Oh, can you not actually go over to the other area? Hold up. Yeah, I can't jump up there. Okay. I kind of forgot. This makes a little bit more sense with what I was thinking earlier, but this whole thing up here is split into two. But what was I going on about? Yeah, so I think that's something that I was positively receptive to. Is that even the right word? Like, I was positive about. My perception of it was positive is what I'm trying to say. In case those words aren't clear. This lag is not great right now. But then, yeah, having the bleed like randomly intermixed into the middle of the parry chain, it just doesn't really fit with anything else in the parry chain. I think another thing is maybe having retaliation of rolling retaliation bleed. That might help rolling retaliation be seen as a little bit more useful in AoE. And then having brutal assault like tear up its bleed or be able to just stack with itself, and then potentially having something to sweep brutal assault to AoE to steal the term from Wardens. I think a couple of those things could be really beneficial to Redline Guardian gameplay. And just some general ideas I have for some things they could do to, at least me, maybe, hopefully, improve the Redline Guardian. But Jim, you're wondering, proposed changes, do I think it's a net positive? We will see. The first round, I think was a net positive, but we'll see what the more updated proposed changes are. I still have that window right here, so we'll get to that. I know I've been doing a lot of gameplay as I focus more on just some of my general thoughts. But the other big part of Redline Guardian that I don't think works well right now is the traits. So compared to other classes, it seems like you have to spend so many trait points on such little things, both in the red line and, as my nose itches, the yellow line. And as I already talked about Brutal Assault, you have 11 trait points surrounding that single skill. So first you get the ability, and it's quite bad. There's nothing brutal or nothing, it's not even an assault. It's just bad. Bad attack would be a better name for it at that point. But you can get something to reset the cooldown of bad attack, so you can use bad attack more frequently. That doesn't really make much sense. And then 2 whole rows later, you have this branch from Brutal Assault called Hemorrhage. And this trait makes Brutal Assault a little bit brutal. It turns it into an assault. I don't know if it'd quite become brutal, to be honest. So it gives Brutal Assault the bleed, which basically gives it its entire effectiveness. And it's something that, like, I don't know, it just feels bad to me to pick Brutal Assault and then way later you have to spend 5 trait points to actually make it useful. Ideally, to me, Brutal Assault would just have a bleed, and these 2 traits would be either changed. Maybe Hemorrhage would improve the bleed somehow, increase its duration, do something more ideally than just 15% bleed damage. And then Tireless Blows, I think for a trait like this to work for me, you would have to go towards that Brutal Assault, being able to stack type thing or tier up. So that's one of the big things with the Redline traits. Deeper Wounds is kind of okay. It gives more pulses and strengthens them. It's 5 trait points for that though, but that's kind of okay. It's more in line with some things other classes have. To the King, this is another one though. You have to spend 5 trait points to get this to 100% chance. That just seems a little excessive, and like they could have other things, other more exciting things. Then maybe you could have To the King here. You could have this trait, but maybe make it 1 trait point where you get that buff to improve To the King. So just some things like that. Also, To the Rescue, 6 trait points for something that's like small. It has a little impact on your damage and another small impact on the run speed buff. So that one just seems odd. And again, 6 trait points for that relatively minor effectiveness. They've already talked about Thrill of Battle and Invigorating Parry, but both of those are like kind of meh-ish in my experience. Again, that's without context of the power changes. I don't know if Guardians run into much issues with that. Sorry, my nose and eyes are super itchy. It could be allergies or potentially cats, but if y'all are wondering. And then kind of similar with the yellow line, you have something that's just like plus 25% damage, absorb, and reflect for negate there. And it's a lot of trait points for something that's not really that exciting, and it's for 1 single ability. Again, I know other classes, other specs have similar things, but it just seems excessive, the amount of things like that on the Guardian to me. Even Bring On the Pain, that type of thing. Demoralizing Anthem, that one I guess has both range and targets. But again, with all the things they have like that. Tenderize and Bolster, I think I've talked about those previously, but if anybody has better information on Bolster, if I remember correctly, that buff is pretty weak. But the Tenderize one I know is quite weak, even though you can stack it up to 5 times. I think even at that amount, it's pretty small crit rating. Actually, for this character, it wouldn't be terrible, but from what I remember, that's how it is at higher level even. So yeah, That's what I generally think about building Red Line Guardian that dips into the yellow, and even Yellow Line Guardian. Again, I don't really play Blue Line Guardian, so not too many comments on that. So with all that in mind, and me being out of breath, we can go on. And Wizco, you do think that the Red Line Guardian is subjectively the best in the game. It is. If you enjoy it, that's great. Hopefully the revamp wouldn't ruin it for you then. That would be kind of bad. Let's see, I messed this up, but I think it's working now. Okay. I'm gonna get water. Sounds like my neighbors are being noisy, but then again, so am I, at least with talking. I'm not really knocking, banging things around. So to maybe see if these proposed changes are actually positive to me, I'm going to be turned this way for a little bit. Hopefully that's okay. But first off, we have Guardian's Ward here. Maybe here, I'll go back to desktop mode for this. There we go. That's better. This text is really ginormous, but it improves legibility for everybody. Okay, so that's better. Hold up, we can make it even better. There we go. Get rid of all that extra side stuff. Okay, so to actually get more into the post finally, after like my 30-minute rundown of some Guardian things, Guardian's Ward, move up to the... wait. Guardian's Ward? Isn't that this ability? It's going to be moved up. It's going to be put into the blue line. Not necessarily going to, but that's what their current thinking is. So that would replace the block chance. That's kind of interesting because right now I mentioned that it's just something I don't really use. In the red line, don't really find much chance to use it. So I don't think it's bad that an ability like that would necessarily be exclusive to the blue line, but it's odd because, oh, that was a nice, satisfying devastate. But yeah, I'm not going to comment too much about the blue line stuff, but I am curious. So protection by shield replaces shield wall. Toggle skill, but they won't have shield wall anymore? Isn't that the one that mitigates a whole bunch of damage on an ally for a short duration? Maybe. Okay, so that one reduces incoming damage by Guardian and all Fellowship members nearby, so they become a -3% incoming damage buffer. Oh, whoops. There we go. Shield of Light, that is another thing in blue line, so adds incoming damage buff. Shield taunt generates more threat and increases targets by 1 at tier 5. I like the name of that, Shield of Light, but yeah, that does more buffy stuff, glossing over blue line. Whereas Fortitude, that one passively increases your physical mid incoming healing block and partial block. And then Juggernaut, I think this is a cooldown ability they have now. Or is that a yellow line cooldown maybe? But either way, it's a 15-second duration, 3-minute defensive buff. Okay, the Keen Blade, that is what I am personally, very biasedly, more interested in here with the red line. So Retaliation and Whirling Retaliation, those would become Breach and Whirling Breach. Alright, so their names are changed. We'll see beyond that. That sounds like with Breaching, it makes me think that they actually activate the parry chain. I don't know if that's the case. Then it maybe could still be a parry chain, but we'll see what they have more. And then you also get Overwhelm. When you spec into the red line, reduces outgoing healing by 50%. BPE... Oh, that's a... The PES, we'll call it BPE, block, parry, evade. That one increases damage by up to 15%, essentially. And then Thrill of Battle, that is the trait that I've complained a lot about. And I've talked in like my Redline Guardian build that it's useless because of how little heal it gives and the stringent requirements to activate that. So this one looks like it's the same, and they have clarified it does give you up to a 25% crit chance, but when you get a crit, the buff is gone and you go through the cycle again. That is very much so like the Fire Mage in World of Warcraft, where it's a bad luck mitigation. And I like that, but as I mentioned in the previous video, it just seems odd for a Redline Guardian thing, but just they have so many things going on with them. Maybe it does actually fit in as, hey, just another random crit theme for Guardians. Okay, the next thing is replace skillful deflection. Is that this guy? Oh, yes, so that replaces the parry chance one. Guardian's Ward, so you would still have access to Guardian's Ward, it sounds like. Damage increased by 1%, so you get up to 5% damage on that. Very exciting. But then also Mastery bonus while active. That could actually be interesting if you use Guardian's Ward as a self-buffer. I don't know if it'd be 10 seconds buff, but use it to maintain a buff. That could be a new dynamic in Redline Guardian gameplay, and yet another theme, self-buffs, which I guess is technically seen in To the King. A little bit mixed on if I think I would like that or not, but it's by no means a bad thing to me. And then next up, heavy weapon training. So that would actually be a nerf from what they originally had. That will split essentially the 10% damage into 5% being skill and 5% being two-handed weapons. So a little bit extra kicker to use two-handed weapons. Thrust will remain unchanged. Does that mean unchanged from how it is in game, or unchanged from their previous 5 or 12-second cooldown outside of the parry chain? Because I much prefer the 12-second cooldown out of parry chain idea, at least tentatively prefer that. Pending a whole bunch of other changes they could do. In a vacuum, I think I would rather Thrust be not in the same tier as Overwhelm, basically. Have those splits somehow is how I would probably prefer that, personally. And then Bleed Them Dry, move into 10 deep set trait spot. We'll use the... Okay, Bleed Them Dry, that's just going to be move. Bleeds have extended duration. That, for higher level Guardians, doesn't really do anything, because you're gonna get it anyway. And then Invigorating Response, they added block response, so that's pretty similar to before. And then Protection by Sword, so this is this guy right here, where if you... Here, I can move the cat to be smaller. Where is it? Oh yeah, so this is the one where if you put it on an ally near you and they parry an attack, you will be able to react to that parry, and you also buff nearby fellowship damage. Actually, for 10 seconds. I thought that was a toggled. It would buff the fellowship for the, like, amount of time that was toggled. That's kind of funky that that has a 10-second duration. That seems off to me. Or maybe when they parry you get that? I don't know. That just seems funky, their current description. So how are they thinking about changing it? So increase fellowship or raid members melee damage by 5%, not interrupted by combat state effects, that's good. And then when any fellowship members within 40 meters does a B, P, or E, I don't know what evade response event there is, but when they do any of those, you will have that. That sounds like an improvement to me. Like, it's just flexible who actually does a block or parry. And I think that's something that's generally good for group content. So they want to keep that toggle skill, which I don't really have any thoughts on it. I think that is a good set of changes for it. And then Battle Fury, well, I remember this one being people talking a lot about reactive parry. To me, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's, of course, more of a passive more solo oriented type trait, so when you parry an attack you just do it damage to your enemies. Right now it does, as far as I know, completely negligible damage, so they would of course have to change the balance with it if they wanted to keep it in game, but it looks like they are thinking about changing it. So now it's a 3-minute cooldown ability that unlocks combat response states and increases damage by 20% for 20 seconds. So a cooldown, offensive cooldown for Red Guardians, which I think could be a great addition for them. It sounds very similar to the Captain one that activates like their battle states and the such. So pretty similar there. I think compared to reactive parry, I think I like that, even though some ideas from reactive parry, like reflecting damage on a parry, neat idea, but I generally think this one would be more fun. So Warrior's Fortitude is renamed to Warrior's Advantage, and this is just a passive boost to physical mastery, crit chance, and parry, partial parry. I don't know if it intends to include block, and that's just something they missed putting there. But to me that makes sense, because it was always odd that Warrior's Heart was like a big defensive cooldown, self-heal type thing. Yet, if you went in the red line, now it's an offensive buff, so you want to use it as an offensive buff. But at the same time, it's your self-heal emergency cooldown type ability. So I think that makes a lot more sense, and I actually really like that one. Rupture. This one replaces honorable combat, and it looks pretty similar to before, but the big addition they have now is increased damage. No, we already had that. Applies ruptured artery, so a high damage 8-second bleed, and I really like that, because that means you're actually getting a benefit and not just like totally removing your bleeds, but you're getting something impactful out of it. So hammer down, you can just use it for its raw high damage, or you can use it and consume bleeds for a little bit of a 8-second high damage over time effect, it sounds like. I'm not 100% sold on a mechanic like that being tied to hammer down, but could be interesting. And it still has the increased incoming damage. It looks like they've tuned the numbers, which I would expect for just about all this to be very flexible with changing. Next up is Prey on the Weak. Oh, another important thing with the hammer down debuff here is it would interact with any of the debuffs. Actually note it here. It would interact with any of the debuff affecting stuff in the yellow line, which I will eventually get to here. But Prey on the Weak, I forget what this is. Critical hits against opponents suffering from slashing wound will inflict additional damage. Wow. So now any active bleed, it will increase damage from skills if target has active bleed. Value TBD. I think that would be better, any bleed. They're weak if they're bleeding and you prey on them, so seems to fit the theme of the trait name. And that is it for the red line. So once again, this is hopefully all the stuff I went on about earlier gives extra context for why I feel a little bit disappointment when I get to the end of this list. Just because I think there are so many other things, in particular with the building aspects of Redline Guardian, that could be improved, and perhaps some exciting additions to a couple particular skills I hammered down on, so to speak, was Brutal Assault, perhaps allowing you to stack that or something along those lines, and maybe even spread it with Vexing Blow. Just a couple things that I think could be really fun. But yeah, I overall think Redline Guardian gameplay is in a fun spot to me. I obviously enjoy it, but I do think it could be better. There was a bug on me. Well, it's not on me anymore, and I did not squeeze it with my fingers, so who knows. But yeah. And then next up, Yellow Line. So I started to talk about this a little bit earlier, but it was, as far as I can tell, incoherent babble. So let's try this again. And when I skimmed through this list of changes, this is when it really hit me. Cat's changing beds. They gotta go to the new one now. This is when it hit me that perhaps Yellow Line Guardian being a specialization would not be a bad thing after all. If, this is the very big if they can actually make it so in any given situation you would be just as viable playing yellow line and just as viable playing playing blue line, where your choice is mainly based on the different abilities and different flavors and all that sort of thing. I could see it being a situation where every single AoE fight you just want yellow line, or every single target fight you just want blue line. That was one of the concerns with like their very initial wave of this a month or two ago, or whenever it was really. Their very initial thoughts on the Guardian changes that they posted. That was one of my concerns, basically, with that idea that they put forward with yellow line not being removed as a specialization. But when I saw this, so that means that I thought when I came across them saying that the yellow line Guardian would be removed as a spec, but I would have supplemental traits for the red and blue line, that's why I thought that was a good thing. But with some of the changes that they have here, a lot of these ideas I think could make for a great spec if expanded on and leaned into a little bit more to make the specialization actually feel special compared to, well, the blue line and just other classes and specs in LOTRO. So it's kind of interesting at this point. I'm almost thinking I'd like to see this for yellow line Guardian tank. I don't know how well all this would fit into the overall gameplay kit of both a blue line Guardian and a red line Guardian, but they have a lot of what I would describe as kind of paladin like stuff from World of Warcraft. It's just the idea I get from it. So if we look through it, we'll see what they have. Force opening, you get that in the yellow line. That could be a trainable trait instead of, when they said trainable skill, I assumed that was like trainable from the Guardian trainer, so you just get auto bestowed and it would be actually outside the yellow line. But it sounds like this might actually be, somebody pointed out, and I kind of agreed that this is maybe more likely as it's a trait, but it's a skill in the traits. So when they say trainable, it's a trait you can purchase for trait points essentially. So this one, this Bastion of Light, is a 10-meter hotspot around the Guardian's feet that deals a small amount of light damage to all targets within, and any target that is affected is more susceptible to Guardian debuffs. So the mark, I am interpreting this as the mark is 15 seconds, and the ability has a cooldown of 20 seconds, not that the hotspot has a duration of 15 seconds. At first, I actually read this as the hotspot having 15 seconds. So it's almost like Consecration from WoW's Paladin. So you'd like use this ability and you'd have a square around your character that just stayed there for 15 seconds, repeatedly dealing damage over time. That was how I was initially interpreting it, but I think some more clarity on that would help with the interpretation here. So yeah, that just sounded really exciting to me, and a type of class that is themed around that and maybe standing in that hot spot and doing AoE light things, damage over time, marking enemies, debuffing enemies. A whole spec that leans into that theme and still has the overall like Guardian kit sounded really fun. Or sounds like it could be really fun, even with an ability. Like, just a random idea. Maybe if you're in that square, if you used redirect, it would be a massive AoE type thing. I don't know. It's just, all these ideas came to me when I read this. But next up we have defensive expertise. That's a super boring trait, but that doesn't mean it's a bad trait. It's just a boring trait. Another one for block with 2 innate weapons. And then this is the one that also gives you increased damage and incoming healing. That'd probably be an auto pick for all specs, I would have to imagine. And then Radiate. This one was really interesting because it increases the range of Bastion of Light 5 meters for first 2 tiers. So that's 10 extra meters. So this hotspot around you is up to 20 meters, which is pretty long range. And then a third one to get it up to 30 meters total. That's pretty crazy. And then AoE attacks can also spread the targets that are marked by Bastion of Light. So you can do a lot of spreading of the marks that I assume that still the mark is still like makes enemies more susceptible to debuffs. Yeah. I'm not you all might be able to tell, but that is perhaps the thing that I'm least interested in with general Yellow Line Guardian stuff, both old or current in game now and with their proposed changes. The whole marking to be more susceptible to debuffs, I don't know. It just hasn't connected with me, is how I describe it. It's not that it's a bad thing. Some players might really like that, but it's something that it just doesn't seem like it really fits in. And that's kind of the old criticisms I had of the current Yellow Line, I should say, because it just didn't seem like it fit in with the Guardian class as a whole. And that's how I am so far feeling about this, in particular with marking. But if you had Bastion of Light just be a square area around you that deals damage, for example, and maybe it itself debuffs enemies, not necessarily marks them, maybe that would make me feel better about it or think more positively about it. But it's still, that doesn't mean that the marking again is a bad thing. But why contain it? You mentioned that or you said funny, you mentioned Paladin, Juggernaut. Oh, it's like a skill from Paladins in WoW. Down to the 20% damage reduction. That's the new Juggernaut. That's kind of interesting. It's been a while for WoW Paladin. I played a little bit Retribution and Dragonflight, and that's pretty much it that I remember. Okay, so Tenderize. This is one of the ones that I have complained about more or less. So full or partial parry, blocks, or evades gives you critical rating. If they really want that type of trait to be a thing, to me that's just probably based on how it currently is in game, just the opposite of an exciting trait. Flash of Light. So this is one that increases damage dealt by Bastion of Light. So that does do damage for a little bit of confirmation. Deal small amount of light damage. So this is confirmation. It does damage, and this increases the small amount by a small amount. And it increases the duration of Bastion of Light. This is also, when I was skipping over this, I remember these two things because that caught my eye. This also made me think the ground square area, hotspot, I'll call it that, hotspot actually had a duration. And I think something that was not clear was like if it had a tick rate or how that exactly functioned, the hotspot having a duration. I really like the idea of the hotspot having a duration though, if this does not. But then also, while you're in Bastion of Light, melee skills deal light damage. At this point, I would assume it's Guardian melee skills and not everybody's melee skills deal light damage. Seal. I know, I'm still here, maybe a big surprise. Alright, good night. Believe it or not, I was in Discord the whole time with my kin, ignoring basically everything. I did catch a couple little things, but did not contribute at all to whatever they were talking about today. Okay, looks like, yep, that would be me doing my push to talk button. So hey, now we're out of Discord. Nothing pretty much changed. So yeah, it's kind of neat how this really focuses on that light theme. And also you standing within the hotspot and also, yes, you standing while within Bastion of Light, to me, that again makes me think it's a hotspot that actually has a duration, not just the debuff having a duration. But that whole idea is what made me think of Yellow Line Guardian specialization focused heavily on that theme. Still, maybe it could fit in well with Blue Line Guardian and Red Line Guardian. I don't know. It doesn't make the most sense to me from a Red Line Guardian perspective, but maybe it would be fun and maybe it would be okay. Could be something I'd have to play with. Maybe they could, for Red Line Guardian, maybe Blue Line Guardian could do something defensive for you, and Red Line Guardian maybe that would be a situation where you could spread your bleed somehow. I don't know. Something to think about, I suppose, if this does continue going forward in this direction. I don't know that I want to look at every trait, but high-spirited. That's incoming healing, and that's just going to be moved. I probably won't focus on stuff that is moved like that too much. And then their protection by light. I'm guessing this is going to be a trait and no longer a set bonus, but it will reduce combat state effects. Oh, adds that to protection by shield. And then it adds a small reflective damage shield to protected by the sword. So that kind of adds the reflect effect from reactive parry. While many people have pointed out it's basically a useless trait in the current implementation, the idea of the reflect, again, I kind of liked. So having that come back in some form, kind of like to see that. And then the Warrior's Fortitude trait that is in the yellow line, that one is here. That will become Warrior's Guile, and this just passively enhances some defensive things. Could be useful even as a Redline Guardian, I imagine, if you want to boost your tactical mitt mainly. Maybe crit defense. And then cutting Mark of... Oh, I have to respect to see these, but I will see them. Manifested Ire, so enemy attacks are snared. Yeah, that one, I'd be very indifferent on that one personally. And then non-damaging debuffs applied to targets become permanent in duration. As odd as it sounds, I would also be fine losing that. It would add a little bit of emphasis on the debuff duration. I'd honestly be probably happy without having that. It also maybe would not limit them. I could see a trait like this limiting design scope of like what type of debuffs, how the debuffs would work for the new Guardian. So I think that could actually be a good thing. Anyway, we made it to the end of the Guardian changes. I feel like I've been standing here just an hour talking, but hopefully you'll have enjoyed that and getting the update so soon after the initial video I made. Again, that's why I want to highlight. It's a great thing. I think that Standing Stone Games is posting this stuff well ahead of time. It seems for when they actually are starting the work, perhaps, and getting towards implementing a Guardian revamp this year. Again, my thoughts are, without any sort of confirmation or I think any estimated time frame given from Standing Stone Games, I wouldn't be surprised to see this until update 36 beta. It just seems like that would be the timing, but that's pure guessing at this point. So, all that said, I think I'm going to switch to another character in a moment. I think the Lore Master will make a return, and we can finish some of the things with them as well, if that sounds like a plan for you all. But first, I have to destroy 2 more Fel Runes. I feel like after all this time, it would be nice to actually complete one quest. Technically, I completed one quest. It would be nice to complete this particular quest. Still, from a solo perspective, just running around Mordor, Guardian gameplay is fairly fun. And obviously bleeds. I feel like that's the big thing that just does not translate well to solo gameplay like this, where mobs die so quick. You just don't really get to realize the effect of bleeds. So it's a bit of a different dynamic, and I feel like I kind of miss out on a big theme of the Redline Guardian when it's mostly solo like this, doing shorter fights. If you're even solo doing longer fights, you can get a little bit more into the bleeds. Alright, 1 Fel Rune here, and I think there... Oh, we do have to... No, that actually was the last one. Nice. Okay. except we have to bring them to the Watching Stone. I am fine doing that, it'll just take a little bit of travel. Bad time to navigate on War Steed. If I remember correctly, just because I was a Guardian, I thought I'd pick Heavy Steed. If I remember correctly, I did actually go with Heavy, so the turning ain't gonna be great on it. No, it's actually medium. Usually I go light on my characters, but I was trying to play into the Heavy Guardian theme, and I think I went up to medium, it seems. Not quite to Heavy Steed. Actually had my character parked just outside of this. No, this is actually a different space than I thought, but it's just where I had this character parked when I was recording the initial Guardian revamp video. But it was actually up there, I think. But maybe, we'll see when I get there. But there's like a safe spot on this camp from me being in the middle of the quest that I'm working on today. But I actually saw, this is kind of surprising, in the time of recording that video, I actually saw 2 different people come up to work on that quest. And I think interact specifically as I'm going to with the Watching Stone. Which I'm kind of shocked in an area, remote area like Mordor, at such a particular level range that you can't actually come across people playing the game. Even though sometimes it seems like the world, especially leveling, can be very empty. It's not always completely empty. So I think this is the one I need to talk to. Hey, we got a shield for that. I think this character actually needs a shield, because I have my spear. As far as I know, I don't have a shield, so it'll be nice to get one. Problem is, my inventory is evidently very full. Wait, that shield has physical mastery. That is strange. Especially on a Guardian. Oh, we have to do even more? Okay, I might hold off on Guardian. And this is where I'm actually remembering, for anybody curious about general thoughts on Mordor, I'm actually kind of remembering this being one of the annoying parts of Mordor. This particular zone, I mean Dora Marth, that I remember running through before. It was like, I think I talked about this, I probably have at multiple points, but yeah, this particular chain up here wasn't too bad to start this time, but I remember this one dragging on before, and I see why. It's a lot of walking around with different quests at different times, like not having them all together essentially. So a lot of back and forth throughout the area. But with Lore Master, we can return to Lore Master and get on with their changes, which I think, do I still have this document up? Okay, I did actually remove it, but we're still on the funky camera where I'm down here. That's okay. So I'm just going to, oh, I'm on desktop. Okay. I'm just going to do this then. So with the Lore Master, we already talked about the pets. Some general ideas with the Lore Master. We also already talked about the pets in general, and I would like to get beyond that here. And this is where I was thinking. And I did talk about generally, like Lore Master has high impact, long cooldown abilities, and then also some slower built up damage over time type abilities, especially with the Burning Embers, Gust of Wind mechanic. And that's pretty much it. When they say that your skills can feel quite thin, that is exactly where I feel like one kind of core rotational type ability, not necessarily changing an ability we have. Loremaster has a lot of skill bloat, but maybe repurposing one of these abilities or somehow making it so you just have one more short cooldown, fairly snappy, just downtime type core ability, I think could be a great change to the Redline Loremaster. And I think for me would make the spec a little bit more enjoyable, and in particular make it feel less thin despite having all these explosive abilities. When those are all on cooldown, that's where I feel like the Redline Loremaster can start to feel a bit thin, and perhaps that could be an improvement. Let's see about current damage potential. I've already touched a little bit on this, but the contrast and uniqueness of having your damage be some slowly built up over time, but then having the very high damage, high impact, but long cooldown abilities is pretty neat. It looked like she was stabbing him from far away, but she's just punching him. That's kind of brutal. It's more brutal than Guardian's Brutal Assault, that's for sure. But back to the Loremaster. What frustrates you when trying to prioritize DPS? I think mainly, for me, if I were to take a Loremaster to endgame, it just seems like in most situations, a Yellow Line Loremaster would just be straight up better. So to me, that is the biggest thing there, as well as the pet cycling and maybe even emphasis on debuffs. I don't mind as a DPS Loremaster. I mean, it's a support class, so maybe having some support, maybe having some debuffs baked in along with your damage could be a neat thing. Maybe the new core rotational ability idea that I gave, maybe that one could play a debuff theme somehow, but be more DPS oriented. That could be interesting. Yeah, this sticky tar, I'm not the best about always using this, but it decreases enemy fire mitigation. And then also Catmint Raven would be another thing to look out for. It's been a while since I've done anything with this because my main Loremaster here is level 66. I haven't played my high level Loremasters for, I think I have 2 of them, high level, for a long while. Partially because of some issues in general with the class and specs of them, so maybe improvements would change that for me. Okay, anyway, that would definitely be an annoyance for me, basically. And then, see, this is the thing, waiting on cooldowns, haven't found myself trying to go back in the past a little bit, but still with the current iteration of Loremaster. I haven't found myself running into that situation too much, but that's where I think the thinness comes in. And yes, waiting on cooldowns, but not necessarily these very high impact cooldowns, but just wanting something. This is why I keep leaning on the new skill aspect, leaning on something added to the core rotation outside of these high cooldown abilities. So yeah, that pretty much addresses, from my perspective, these questions. Again, if you all have any thoughts, I know we're shifting from the Guardian and already talked about Loremaster way back when in this stream a little bit, but I didn't mean to pose this section of the stream and potential video as me just answering these questions, but that's almost the way it worked out. Hopefully this gives you all ideas, and of course any thoughts you have on these questions, feel free to share, obviously in the comments, but also on the LOTRO forums, the original post of this. Okay, but yeah, I think the really big things with DPS-oriented Loremaster is, one, just to repeat myself, make them viable, and no reason you should feel bad for choosing to DPS Loremaster instead of support Loremaster. And also make sure it's the other way around too, where you shouldn't feel bad for wanting to support Loremaster instead of DPS Loremaster. And also general changes to pets, so you can more or less pick which pet you want, and they'll help you do DPS and maybe give a little bit of group support effect. But nothing that makes you rely on a very specific pet. You can, again, just choose which one you want. And then perhaps rework abilities a little bit so that outside of the high cooldown abilities, there's just something a little bit more than just Burning Embers, Gust of Wind, lightning strike and, to an extent, cracked earth. That is my attempt at a quick summary of that. But moving on from there then, Yellow Line Lore Master. I don't really play Yellow Line Lore Master, and it is true, this is something that is, I don't think, a great thing, as I have talked about in previous videos. It is primary trait setup because it's a support focused one, and Lore Masters have been support class, and historically in LOTRO, the developers have basically, I don't know if decided is the right word, but balanced the classes such that typically one primary role of them is the only viable one, which is usually linked to one specific specialization. So it looks like they're considering some changes with that. Primary is thought off in raid groups instances in PvP. Doesn't mean has no room for improvement. I do agree. I personally don't really enjoy Yellow Line Lore Master, so it'd have to have a lot of changes probably for me to enjoy it. So I'm not really the person to probably comment on this type of thing. For anybody that does play Yellow Line Lore Master, I'd be interested to what you think though. What do you think could be improved to make it better? I am curious, though, still with the questions I have, in case I have any general thoughts on it. I think the big thing that I wish was different was no pet cycling. That would make me more likely to approach Yellow Line Lore Master. But I have tried Yellow Line Lore Master, and that's when I found out it just wasn't enjoyable from a gameplay perspective to me. Okay, this is something I have run into. I will say I have seen people comment on this one quite frequently, even people I play LOTRO with somewhat frequently, is that they just feel like their class is totally useless when there's no crowd control component, or ads are not crowd controllable. Yeah, just crowd controllable. We'll leave it at that. I won't try to repeat what I said. So that is something I've run into, and maybe something they could consider as, I don't know if these are the type of people that would actually share their thoughts on it, but it is something they have discussed a dislike for. They just don't feel as useful when there is no option for them to use their crowd control abilities. Okay, that is most of what I have any general context or information on with Yellow Line Lore Master. It was short, but definitely sweeter than my previous rambles. And then, let's see, just an update, not planning to remove support role or identity. I think that's a great thing, as much as I would like them to make DPS just viable and give you reason to play DPS Lore Master in all endgame contexts, even most difficult tier 5 raids, etc. I think that they should still have the support role and identity in the class. But then, yeah, a lot of people do enjoy playing it as a support class, which is great. Just because I personally don't doesn't mean it's a bad thing that it exists. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I, of course, love that people love it. Especially when they play in a group with me, because that means we're helped out by all the great Lore Master support stuff. But yeah, that's some general thoughts I have on upcoming potential changes. Sounds like Lore Master revamp might be in the works down the ways. And yeah, I'd be curious what you all think again. And I think at this point, we'll go back to regular LOTRO. I did a very bad job about getting any sort of Lore Master gameplay during that. Like a very bad job, but that's okay. Made me go through it more quickly. As far as traits go, that actually is something I honestly don't feel like any particular trait is unexciting. Perhaps the biggest one is like the avoidance debuffs in Ring of Fire. That seems more or less pointless. I wouldn't mind seeing that be either removed or changed to something else. Maybe that is one of those things, though, that if you're a Redline Lore Master, maybe Ring of Fire is type of ability that could have some AoE support that is not a small BPE debuff. Maybe it could be something like increased incoming damage, decreased outgoing damage. If they want to go along that debuffing enemies' defenses, then yeah, increase incoming damage could be an interesting thing. I kind of get the idea of avoidance debuffs though, just because it's like, well, if you try to move out of the ring of fire, you're gonna get damage type thing. But so you have less mobility, but I don't know, maybe they could do something else that perhaps is more impactful, really. Just double check that I don't run into any other particularly frustrating thing. I actually do think Fierce Lightning, this connects back to some of the Guardian traits that we were talking about, having to spend 5 points to get that to be 100% chance trigger. I would prefer any trait like that in game, where it's like a slow build up of percent chance to be either something else or just be 1 point, and it's like 1 point in this and there you go, you're guaranteed to get the Fierce Lightning. I do love that though, it just adds the theme and power to the already powerful lightning storm. I don't know if I can express this enough, but I really love the long cooldown strong abilities. Lightning storm is no exception. Oh, yeah, I actually agree. The staff sword and storm here for staff strike, the 1 minute cooldown that it can call lightning down on your foe, dealing damage. I don't know if it's significant, but stunning the foe. I think that could also be shortened. I definitely agree. Maybe I also feel like I never quite want to pick Fend Them Off because it's a 1 minute cooldown. You can boost your damage by 12% and get the avoidances, but focusing on the damage buff, that's something that just on a 1 minute cooldown, if I remember correctly, the duration isn't really impressive where you'd actually want to get that. That is something, I agree, that could be reworked. Maybe shorter cooldown, longer duration of the buff type thing. I think that could be an interesting improvement. Cracked Earth isn't the most exciting, but it's a damage boost. Not bad to have boring traits like that. And yeah, I really feel like the biggest thing with Lore Master that is perhaps not touched on all too much in this, they kind of brushed it to the side to focus a little bit more on Lore Master's damage roll in general. And my interpretation of that, I think they might even have mentioned it, was the red line. Specifically, okay, so this was just general Lore Master DPS. They didn't really specify red line, but it seemed to imply red line because that's where a lot of Lore Master's DPS is. But yeah, I feel like the blue line, to me, that is the spec that needs the most like overhaul, rework, total ground up, destroy it completely for the most part. Maybe preserve a couple things like Murder of Crows, and outside of a Murder of Crows, just delete everything and think about it from the start. You could end up with traits that you have now, like decreased skill inductions or whatever, but just totally start fresh with trying to design a new blue line. I think could be a good place to start with that. It could also be the type of tree to be removed, the specialization be removed, and you just use it as a... This is really funky. Wow, that is so weird. I don't know why. Oh, I'm on Game Capture. Okay, that's why. I didn't realize I was off desktop capture. I was driven a little bit crazy by OPS, like setting windows off of where they should be. Sorry about that. But yeah, to me, blue line, that just needs the really big overhaul and could be turned into a support specialization, as in supplemental traits for red and yellow line Lore Master build, and maybe focuses still on the pets and how they work with your red and yellow line LMs. That's a possibility. This is one of the ones that I would be, of all the specs for the different classes they could do this to, this is one I'd probably be a little bit more sad about, because I think it could be great to have an actually viable pet-focused Lore Master spec that, like I said, the red line, you should have no reason to feel bad about picking a red line Lore Master over wanting to play a yellow one. I think blue line could be the same. No reason to feel bad about wanting to play blue line over red line over yellow line. And they should, in an ideal world, all be viable for their role. that's actually a whole other conversation, is the for their role and what roles fit where and what type of content needs what roles. But that's a can of worms that is probably too much to get into this late into the stream. But I'll just put the idea forward if anybody wants to comment on it, and maybe we can talk about it more at a later time if people are interested. But in LOTRO, there are 4, and depending how you even define it, maybe 5 primary roles in the game. You have the classic DPS, somebody who does damage. You have the classic healer, somebody who heals allies. You have the classic tank, somebody who tanks mobs. And then you have the support role, so that's the 4th role. You have the Lore Master and Burglar, which have some general utility, as well as a big focus on debuff support. But you also have the Captain, which focuses more on buff support, but it's still technically support, just different support. And then there are some, so that would be 5 if you split buff support and debuff support into 2 different ones. The debuff supports also have more crowd control in general with Lore Master and Yellow Line Burglar, Yellow Line Lore Master as well. And then you have even things like, this is where it gets really complicated, but you have things like Warden, which is a healer, Yellow Line Warden, which is a healer, but also has some support stuff with debuffs. You have, even for a pretty much pure DPS, champions technically have some debuffs, even though that's not their focus. Hunters as well. So there are a lot of classes that have a tiny bit of support baked into them. But then you have the Lore Master, Burglar, which really focus on the debuff support, and Captain, which focuses on the buff support. Brawler also has a lot of buff support, by the way. Can't forget them, as much as I like to apparently pretend they're not a class just because I forget about them. They do actually exist, believe it or not. So, yeah, that's just something to think about. How do all the roles really fit in LOTRO? And what I was really getting to was content. In a 3-man instance, should the optimal setup or almost minimum requirement be maybe you have 2 different roles and otherwise you can fill it how you want? Or do you want to have, like, require, okay, maybe you have a tank, but then you can have a healer or support to go along with the tank, and then maybe just one of whatever? There's a lot of flexibility there, and it really depends how they design the roles, balance the content, and balance the individual specs of the classes. And in a 6-man, is it ideal that you have one of each role? So you have a DPS, have at least, I should say, at least 1 DPS, at least 1 tank, at least 1 healer, and at least 1 support. Maybe you could have that 1 support be at least 1 debuff support. So you always, in an ideal 6-man group, want to have a Yellow Line Burglar or Lore Master, any of the DPSs, any of the tanks, any of the healers. Or do you maybe only want that to be a requirement, kind of a soft requirement, more that it's just whatever it's balanced around, to be in a raid? And then the other part of that, the other factor where I guess the Lore Master and revamp comes in, is if you're in one of these 6-man instances and you have 5 spots filled up and your last spot is for a debuffer, well, if a Lore Master wants to join that group, they're probably going to be more or less forced into the Yellow Line, but that's because that's what the group needs. If they had 2 slots left, I think there should be no reason that you couldn't take 2 Lore Masters, 1 Yellow Line Lore Master that focuses on support, 1 Red Line Lore Master that focuses on damage. So I think that's just something that Standing Stone Games has to consider for ideal group balance. And this is my tired 10 o'clock rambling grand revelations of why group balance and composition and making like Red Line Lore Master viable is very complicated. And with that note, it is best that I stop because I actually have no idea where to go. I thought I had another thought on this, but we'll leave that at a wrap. But please do let me know if you have any thoughts on that general idea, and perhaps expanding on that further. Oh, let's get rid of Chrome. There we go. We're done. We're done with browsers today. I was gonna say done with the internet, but can't be done with the internet and still streaming. Do I enjoy Brawler? I don't dislike Brawler. I'm not the biggest fan of their class fantasy though, so I tend to play it less because of that. And it's been a while since I played Brawler. I'm thinking of all the other streams, events, etc. that I have planned coming up. I was thinking about doing a getting back to the Brawler, like giving Brawler a second chance stream, because I have a whole lot of Valars. I don't know a whole lot anymore, but I have some Valars, and I probably have a level 120 or, yeah, probably a 121 that I could give to a Brawler character and get it high level and give it a second chance. Alternatively, I could make a low level Brawler. The problem is, I've done so much low level gameplay in LOTRO, and I currently have my hardcore captain. I have who I'm about to log into with Dwardens. So it's hard to fit any Brawler gameplay in for me to give it that second chance. Also, I can't believe how well this 2 cat beds next to each other trick has worked. Both the cats are able to lay next to me on the desk without, here, let's go to the camera while we're loading characters, without fighting each other over who gets it. This is so hard to control. I don't know why it's angled. We'll see. I hope that's too much. But yeah, there's the cats. I can't. It's so hard to control this. There we go. I'm actually doing something right. That might explain why I'm drawn to some general ideas of the Lore Master, Riff Magos. Cat ears. I don't know if I have control over my pets, but I had to think about I have control, but kind of. I just put another bed there and now have 2 cats there. Oh yeah, yeah, some people have that issue with the classes in LOTRO, not even Brawler, but I think Runekeeper is another example where it just find it doesn't fit too well in the Lord of the Rings lore. So why contain it? Brawler, sounds like opposite of me, has your favorite class fantasy, and a lot of people love it, which is a great thing. Just not for me. But yeah, favorite class fantasy, being a hobbit defeating an orc with a well-timed headbutt. That is pretty good. From my perspective, it is quite comical of a class. I enjoy that part of it. Yeah, okay, so Dwardens, just because I had it in the title of the stream, otherwise it would have been clickbait for people who came to this 3.5 hour stream just for some Dwardens gameplay. The point of discussing Dwardens was actually in the context of the revamps. I was going to mention that, well, I think one comment I saw at one point, I don't even remember where, but one of the LOTRO devs, that's what matters, said that they were like something about the minstrel revamp and not wanting to do massive changes, yet they did pretty significant changes to the Warden. So that's something that I feel like they might be holding themselves back a little bit about with the upcoming Guardian revamp and even potential Lore Master changes is, yeah, they might be holding themselves back on it, yet the Warden changed. Despite the class overall looking the same, the Warden changed quite a lot in the process of the revamp. So, I don't know, that's just something that, it's kind of like the crafting revamp. It could just be that a few smaller changes without a massive overhaul to the system as a whole, that could make the crafting experience great in LOTRO. But it just makes me feel like they're limiting themselves because they're scared to make too big of changes, which I definitely get that, but it's something that doesn't give me the greatest sense of, I don't know if reassurance is the right word, but that they'll take the steps necessary to bring the class or spec or whatever they're revamping into a good spot. Because, yeah, as you say, Broglie, power maximum, they're scared people are gonna quit if they make too big of changes like that. Which, I totally get that, but I guess there's the idea of status quo, and just little improvements on that is better than drastic changes that could make people quit. And I think going back to the Guardian revamp, again, my biggest things with the changes that I wish to have seen that would have been the more drastic type changes was actually in the traits themselves. Not really necessarily making it an entirely new experience, but making it a more exciting building experience. I say more exciting because I think it would be more exciting, of course. Oh, I forget which abilities I have access to. The other thing with Dwarden is all the stuff we did today, especially just having the high levels. I was there almost as a warm body for mechanics for a couple of those instances with how much participation I did, but the contrast, how easy that was just watching people demolish 20 mobs at once versus me struggling against one level 43 goblin. Such a contrast. This Warden revamp has nerfed Dwardens so much. It's kind of funny. What do I need here with these goblins? I know I need to come up here and, collect goblin fire pots. I don't think that's quite in the spot. It's crazy how my original vision for this stream was, yeah, I'll play the Guardian maybe for an hour and then Dwarden for an hour and that'll be it. Oh, I have food cooking on the stove this whole time. It's okay because it actually needed to cook for a long time. In any soup broth, I really like carrots and celery in particular, but I like them to be mushy to where they're basically turned into beyond mush, like they're softer than mush. That is my ideal vegetable consistency. In the particular foods that I eat, that is. Oh, don't need to use that again. Okay, we're gonna use... Hold up. We can defeat 3 goblins at once, I promise. Never mind. I was too... I don't even know. I was thinking I had time to wait to activate Never Surrender because I didn't want to accidentally out-heal it, but that would have been ridiculous anyway. That would be great for Beorning. If they could interact with more stuff in bear form. That'd be a good quality of life boost for them. Speaking of Beorning, they would be a great class ahead of Guardian, and even to me Lore Master to revamp the red line. Oh yeah, I forget that my Wall of Steel is actually a strong ability for me. And yes, this why contain it is the naked Dwarden. All he's got is a crafting tool. Which I am actually... Yeah, I can't gather the ores even in this region anyway. Alright, we're gonna try this again. sometimes. I actually managed to have somewhat decent gameplay despite how late it is. And apparently tired I am. It's almost like it's my bedtime. Oh, I have resolution, really? I guess that makes sense. I'm getting 5 gambit skills, so why not? No idea how good resolution is. Okay, if I do this, I won't die. Don't worry, I got this. But yeah, how good is resolution? Because I really lack options for self-heals. 121. That is not great. For comparison, Celebration of Skill gives me about 550. Ooh, that is an interesting one that I also agree. I'm guessing this is as warning why half your skills can be cast on the move and then half of them can't, but then none of them have inductions. I think for me, any ability that doesn't have induction, ideally you should be able to use it on the move. I think that would be good, consistent. Yeah, if I actually remember to use Wall of Steel would be the ideal one. It actually does some decent damage. Because the damage over time on specifically a naked character, naked Warden like this, is very terrible. But I can just kill mobs quite quickly like that. I just have to get used to that instantaneous damage on the Warden, as crazy as that is. I just have to get used to that playstyle for this character. Goblin Town is going to be such a challenge. I am looking forward to that day. I don't know if Goblin Town's going to be the day that makes me stop playing this character, or if it's going to be the day where I spend 10 hours having a whole ton of fun in Goblin Town. Oh, no. Do I need Never Surrender? I need Never Surrender. I really hope it triggers. Okay, good. That'd feel like such a waste if it didn't. Oh, and Forced March, that is another one. If they, just be a nice change. Nice quality of life change. Okay, are there any... Yes, there is a Goblin Fire Pot. We're gonna do the fancy ambush maneuver. New deed, mighty throw. I definitely did. Well, did I complete all the class deeds? I think I was making progress on them, but with the class trait point change, I think that progress was not as necessary anymore. Oh no, I'm rooted. This is bad. This is very bad. Oh no, I just used that. The heal must have been too late. Just never applied. Oh, that was so close. Well, that goblin just ended the stream, basically. If y'all wanted me to make it... Oh, we're not even close to 4 hours. Never mind. Oh, this would be such a huge upgrade. I wonder how much more damage I would do just from Leather Gloves of Might. I haven't run into power issues. That much I will say. How much better would I do with Shield of the Hammerhand? Quick Thrust suddenly does about 10% more damage, maybe? And then, yeah, when you're playing a hunter and you have skills that require you to stand still, that's another one that I do feel is odd. I think you actually mentioned both of them, Intent, Concentration, and Strength of the Earth, exactly. But I think this is a good point to wrap up the stream. Hopefully y'all enjoyed all the class conversations throughout this. I might try to splice some of those up into clips to upload into somewhat proper-ish videos just to have more content. Moving forward into the first week or so of May, end of April, because It's a busy time for me until basically middle of May, but we'll see. Hopefully I can have some good videos spaced throughout the time period, and then maybe pick things back up a little bit early summer. That would be my tentative plan right now. But I think with that update, it is time for me to get going. Oh, so many items. There's a way to fix that. There we go. All fixed. I have a perfectly clean inventory, you can trust me. Just like I have very clean outros to my streams. But yeah. I kind of lost what I was even talking about. Oh, sand and snow, you just got here. And there is snow, but I don't know that there's sand here in the Misty Mountains. But hopefully you enjoyed what you got here for as I tried to do an outro. Anyway, yeah, hope y'all enjoyed the stream. And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. And thanks for joining, chatting, and watching, everyone.